let's start the 101 guide. Welcome to floor 101. Now, what's interesting about this whole thing is being recorded in 7.5, right? So this is post potion and Aether Pool update. This is post you cannot die 1 to 100 update. So a couple things to check off if you didn't check what we did in 1 to 100 for this file. We started off with 9 arm and armor because we nuked it, and we got straight to 99 very easily. And we started with 0 sustaining potions, and now we have 201 with 3 potsherds banked in. So if you're looking at like starting this run fresh, like completely fresh, like you haven't even unlocked the game mode, you can literally hop in with this job if you decide to do Red Mage or the other ones that we have, which is we have a Machinist guide and a Picto guide. Well, hop in, you're fine. You don't have to do any pre-farming. It's fantastic. But what makes this dynamic interesting post 7.5 is because there is probably no risk at all to get to here. I feel like the gradual stress level of the run will make this 101 set maybe a little bit more jarring, because you're going from 100 floors of not caring if you die or not to now the moment you die you have to go straight back to 1 if you're going for the title. So we're gonna put a little bit more a slight importance to kind of a couple of things we'll talk about and a couple of strategies. Maybe this will be more tactical and strategic versus like what you're actually fighting in this type of thing. This floor set can get a little interesting if you're not paying attention to a couple things or you're not sure how to handle a couple things. We just had someone chat fortunately pass on the bees in later floors, which still can one-shot you basically. So we'll go in, we'll see how it goes, and let's do 101. Alrighty, one thing I like to do in these opening floors, even if you have 2 strength, I'd like to open with a strength, because on these next couple of floor sets, doing that is going to just kind of help you speed up a little bit. The Yarzons are probably the one you want to be most concerned with, because they do a vulnerability for a good 20 seconds. And the only reason that becomes concerning, it reminds me of a death I had a while back when I was doing Red Mage, where I got a little overconfident, and I pulled a deer, and I pulled a Yarzon. And I'm like, you know, I got healing, I'm Red Mage, I didn't have steel on, I'm like, we'll be fine. The double attacking deer, or the only auto attacking deer, plus the vulnerability down from the Yarzon caught up to me so fast that I could not recover, and that was GG. So something to be concerned with those Yarzon if you end up pulling multiple. But if you're doing it solo, it's fine, in my opinion. You'll notice that we're fighting in hallways. Hallways are very important. Here is kind of the last bit where the hallways are still kind of chill, because the next set, everything is going to get a little bit tighter. Post quarters, cave floors, and you're going to be a little bit more concerned about traps over there. Do a lot of wall hugging to avoid some traps. That's very important, unless you want some disaster to happen. Which, of course, you can mitigate by a multitude of things. Hopefully you've gone up here and kind of collected your Pomanders. My Pomanders are pretty decent. I would say they're mostly full outside of the strength. So, like, you had Witching to get out if you need to. You have a couple other tools to get out if you need to. Yeah. Patrol here. This actually, like, a lot of these enemies, by the way, as long as you're handling them one-on-one, you're not overly concerned about what they're doing. I'm not concerned really about talking about them too much. So you're looking more about forming your habits about getting through the floors. And again, take note of the fact that we almost always fight in the hallway. If you're lacking some Pomanders, definitely check out all of the floors. Get kind of to full reveals, check your chests. Always a very good time to do that, because even on these floors and the next couple, you're not going to be... I feel you're not going to be overly concerned with your stalker Pomanders. They're going to come and play. If you're feeling like you're struggling a little bit with some of the enemies, though, then you clearly want to kind of compensate by making sure you have the power-ups to get through, but... This is a sight enemy, so I have to pull this, unfortunately, because it walked towards the exit. So these are kind of some of the things that you'll have to, you know, kind of deal with. It is what it is. Extra kill, at least you're killing pretty fast. Red Mage is pretty good with DPS, in my opinion, especially with the strength on. The first 3 floors, you're going to see very similar enemies. Nothing that I would say is overly concerning. Like I said, if anything, they're only overly concerning if you have to handle multiple of them. Here we got the Rage, and the Rage will be good. I couple it with a Fortune. There's a Landmine, beautiful. It's fine, it happens. One thing that will be different, well actually, Palace of the Dead is interesting because it does kind of ease into everything a little bit, slower than the other deep dungeons. So the story floors kind of got you through. You know, you got a good taste of most of the things, how it goes, how it progresses. In these starting floors, the harder floors, things will get to be the kill counts will be a little bit higher. The floors will definitely, and the maps will definitely be a lot bigger. You're never going to see a 3-room anymore starting from now. So that's something to note. If you got used to seeing those 3 rooms and everything, you're not seeing them anymore. So there's gonna be, so it feels like the floors are getting longer, and it feels like you're having to run around a lot. It's by design because everything's just bigger over here. Flight's good to reduce the amount of enemies. So as we go here, like as I get these bonus Pomanders, I'm using them. And I'm gonna be pretty relaxed here, climbing up. But one of the things I always like to take note with runs like these, especially when you're talking about the lower floors, which one would think like, yeah, maybe I don't have to really look at a guide, I can figure it out. You know, I mean, they're not the hard floors. Well, the thing is, here, it's about forming those habits that you'll use later, you know? And I would argue that the cave floors are definitely a little bit of a test of patience and a little bit of a test of some of your reaction time, because a lot of shenanigans can happen in those cages. A nice relaxing Rage, that's why I biffed deck. It was pretty relaxing, just a couple kills, didn't have to check the other rooms. And again, I'm not doing it, I'm not checking those rooms because I don't really think it's needed for me. Kind of just getting through, like, hey, you usually don't want to hang too long in here, unless you're scoring and you need those kills. Or like you're definitely hunting down like certain Pomanders that you need. Like this is a treasure room, but also look, we just kind of got lucky with our movement here. So I don't even have to pull anything else. I just got through the corner to walk around the side, boom, out of that treasure room, no big deal. Keeping the fights in the hallways. Especially because I would say in these floor sets, we're out already. These floor sets, you're probably not overly concerned with traps, even though we did hit one on the Rage, but I was in a Rage. Because the rooms are much bigger. Actually, this will be a good, nice showing of where some of these traps may or may not... Oh, nice safety, didn't I? Yeah, I guess it didn't matter. But a lot of the traps won't be too far in the edge. When you get to the cave floors, they're going to be a little bit closer to the edge. Typically, in deep dungeon fashion, once you get to 101, 104, 107, you'll see a little bit of adjustments on the enemy loadout of who might show up. There is some carryover in between floors, like things may change at the 2nd, or the 5th, or the 8th, something like that. So you'll notice some different changes of enemies. Again, none of them are overly concerning. The only ones that actually would be concerning in the set would be towards the latter half, which you'll see the beetles and the bees. Those are the ones that you'll want to be a little extra attentive in. So if you're kind of going through these floors and it's like vibing, you know, it's like, oh, you know, not really threatened by too many things. We're just pulling one at a time, you know, kind of super chill. It's almost like you kind of want to just pay a little extra attention once the other ones show up. That's about it. A beetle with a Yarzon. Ooh, you know, that reminds me of a story, Thurin. I was on Astrologian here, and it was a gloom floor. And I aggro 3 beetles on Astro. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll just AoE them down. They all did their dash forward all at the same time and obliterated me, and I had to take the death. I'm like, oh, that's a thing. Goblin Adventurer is a patrol. Probably a slight concern because it has a semi-tank buster with the triple hit. I think I saw the exit earlier. Squirrel is like potentially one of the ones that can be a little interesting because all it does is cast haste. Now with the strength on, you're probably gonna kill it more than likely in time before it gets scamper off. So this is one of those enemies where it's a little bit more concerning if you have multiple of them. But on a 1-to-1 basis, it's like, yeah, it's okay. Again, that's kind of the theme that you have, at least with my runs too, is that when you're dealing with a lot of these enemies, if you're handling them one-on-one, it's not overly bad. Once you start dealing with like 2 at a time, and you're not quite ready for it, then things can get a little interesting in terms of combinations of what they do. So for example, if you pull that squirrel with something else, and you're fighting the something else first, well, that squirrel's not going to hit you while hasted. And that can be a lot of damage, especially if you're not running a steal. In all honesty, says Jockson, do the same before I started watching your stuff fighting in the hallway, but the only problem that I deal with is that I keep forgetting to check behind me, and every time I deal with the patrol. That's a good kind of concern, and I think that's a common concern. We actually had someone in our community talk about the Garm train in 181+, and like kind of questioning, like asking like the community, like, hey, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, how do I handle them better? And I know with patrols for me, it's that as I'm navigating through the room, I do make mental checks on how many there are and where they're traveling. Because generally speaking, a patrol is not gonna just teleport and just show up, right? It has kind of this internal timer of when it moves around through the floors. Of course, you have to increase that timer if it's gloomed and such. So always kind of peering, you'll kind of notice, that's another thing that I don't always talk about, may not be very obvious, but I'm always moving my camera. I'm always moving my camera around everywhere, trying to like kind of observe what's around me, where I'm going, because that's partially because I'm trying to see if there's a patrol coming down my neck. And yeah, that can definitely be rough because a hallway is safe up until a patrol does show up, but at least you're not dealing with traps. And that's one thing that I always like to do, like getting like here, like this position that I'm in right now, I can get an angle from that room over there, potentially if something is coming at me, and I could also turn here to see if a room's coming at me. Like one thing to also like I guess kind of point out is that a lot of these fights, especially in Palace, except on the higher floors, they're not really doing overly complicated mechanics. So I would say like you can kind of divert your attention to observing your surroundings over trying to deal with what these guys are trying to do to you, and that might help you in terms of like, you know, extra survival. I know we had one of our community members mention about marking them, and marking them might be a decent way to kind of reinforce the fact that there is a patrol, and maybe you'll see the mark faster than otherwise. So that's something to also consider. Anything that gives you the advantage here, you're going to try to do. At least that's how I look at it. On higher floors, says Darth, I've developed a habit of doing full 360 look around before committing to pull. Yeah, that's not a bad idea either. At all. Like, that's definitely one thing. Okay, so the Hornets here are definitely your one concern, because they do have a DPS check. It is, I believe, I want to say between a 20 and 30 second timer. So it definitely is in your best interest to put all the focus damage on here. If you happen to pull 2 of them, you must switching or raising, because you're not going to get through them. Now, alternatively, what you can do is you can run away from Final Sting, because it is a close range attack. So if I were to poke one... Okay, so if I were to poke one here, also, we'll check the timer here, right? So we pulled it at 06. So I'm just going to heal here. Actually, let me get it low. That's probably better to get it low. So now it's 10 seconds. Okay, that's low enough. This is now 20 seconds. Also, the 101, the floor 1 Hornet, the floor 7 Hornet will use Final Sting faster than these Hornets. So that's about 25 seconds. So if we go far enough, we're going to cancel that cast. And it's not like Pilgrim's Traverse. Pilgrim's Traverse bees, if they get their Final Sting off, they will get it off by chasing you down and then getting it off. Here it's just like, you just cancel the cast, so they're not going to do it. They're going to do it again, but hopefully by that time you already have it dead if you happen to leave it alive long enough. So that's one thing to also consider. Like, if you feel like you're doing really slow damage on a bee, you can get ready to just run away and just to cancel that Final Sting. So that's an option you can have. Yeah, I like the shirt too. Okay. The hippogriff here are proximity, unlike the same version of them on the previous 4 set. Keep that in mind because they become a little bit of a priority kill because, like, I had to probably pull that just to get to the exit. Oh, you moved. Okay, can I aggro? Okay, we're out. We're going. Hugging the walls. More than likely won't get an aggro here because these things are sight and they're not looking towards the exit. Made a really good time. Look at the time. We're at 106 into 46 minutes. 14 minutes in. Pretty good. So you'll get through these floors pretty swiftly. I mean, I'm getting through them pretty swiftly even while yapping. Not to say that you'll go this fast. I mean, maybe you will, but we're also not really checking all the rooms too. That's also something we're just not doing. But these kind of 50 floors here, 101 to 150, I would say possible to get complicated, but at the very least, the thing you're not going to concern yourself is time. Time should be okay, especially on a DPS class. Here's the beetle, by the way. The beetle is the other thing that's a little concerning because it is a proximity aggro and it is a patrol, so that's always a wonderful combination. You can line of sight these rhino attacks, just like how I did. If you're in range, it has a pretty far range for that too. It'll get it off even if you run away. But if you LOS it like that by moving yourself away from its line, then it's good. Rhino Guard gives it an evasion, which is a little annoying because you might miss a lot. Just like such. Just like such. And that's still God of haha, but he missed too, so that's okay. There you go. So just concern there. That's definitely one of the ones where, like, okay, let's talk about me managing patrols here, especially with something that's a proximity. So, like, this movement here, this is one way I'll try to see. I'll hide behind a wall and try to, like, turn the camera to see if anything's coming at me. You're not going to get aggro through a wall. So that's a way to kind of control where things are going. And at the same time, I'm also observing. Like, I'm looking down this room, right? So if there's nothing there, there's no patrol there. I would have seen it if it's coming back because that's a dead end. And when you kind of keep track of that, then that helps a lot. Because then at least even if you see one and you don't pull one right away, you can kind of be like, okay, well, it's here, so we'll just kind of make sure that we don't get caught off guard there, you know? So yeah, patrols are kind of a big problem that for sure you definitely want to give them some attention. Whatever is needed to make sure you remember. Whether it's marking them or tracking them, or I like to just kind of eliminate them as soon as possible so I don't have to worry about it. See, the only patrols that are, like, really, like, concerning in Palace of the Dead are the 191, the course patrols, because those can really hurt. Especially when we're talking specifically Red Mage. I would not pull them without steel at all. Like, they're, like, a no pull for me until I had, like, better power-ups or something. Alright, so we're just trying to get out of here. We kind of observed everything in this room, so now I'm just basically killing until the exit opens. The exit also was pretty clear. Nothing was obstructing my route to the exit. So if this is the case, if I were to explore most of the room, although I didn't get to the east room, which is fine. If I explored most of the room or revealed everything, and so my only route here is to the exit, I typically would like to kill off the exit to just make sure that it's nice and clear. Getting kind of minimal kills is definitely a good habit to have if you're only going for the clear and you're not really going for, you know, extra points and whatnot. So it kind of keeps your time at a nice minimum. One thing that we'll definitely do is, basically when the exit opens, I'm just heading straight there up until, like, maybe something is blocking me. Which would happen a couple of floors ago. But these are the 3 floors, 107, 108, 109, where I would say you're going to see probably the most deaths, unless, of course, you hit a luring trap, then you can die at any point. And it's mostly the bees. Now, here's going to be a bit an interesting concern, too. The bees are proximity, and I am blinded. So you may have a chance that this thing will get its final sting off if you miss enough times, even as a DPS. So it's almost like you kind of want to be on the ready to run. Luckily, like, the built-in tech of Red Mage is that you always want to kind of move between your casts. So hopefully by design, you're going to be naturally protecting yourself from something like a final sting because you're always moving. It's always a good thing with Red Mage to be moving on on dual cast. So if you're staying here and casting like this, don't do that. Try to get into the habit of casting and moving away from the enemy, right? You can do what I like to do, which is the gap close into the back step for extra mitigation and extra movement too. But movement is always going to be good to have in Deep Dungeon as a Red Mage. Movement is indeed mitigation. It is mitigation. Yep. You may not have a button for pure mitigation, but this is mitigation if they have to chase you down. And especially if you're running a 3-second tick sustaining potion. Look, man, if you buy yourself 6 seconds of not getting hit, that's 2 ticks of your sustaining potion. That's a lot of HP back. As opposed to them just smacking you by standing there. I definitely have seen a lot of Red Mages in the past, when they were streaming and such, that they would basically really be stationary. And it's not that like it's a really bad thing. I mean, that's just a habit that you formed, right? So it would be natural to do that habit. But here you definitely want to be in motion. Now, I actually saw a beetle run by us, and now my priority is to get it out. And that's one thing where kind of, you know, checking your surroundings here is hugely important, because I already knew that that was a thing, so now I'm managing it now. Had to deal with 2 beetles and a bee and had the blind. Oh yeah, yeah, and that's where the priority would be. If that's the case, the bee would be the high priority to try to kill. Otherwise, just definitely prep a witching for sure. Or we just saw 25 seconds. I mean, it's hard to kind of track 25 seconds. Although if you open with a fleshy, then that's 25 seconds, so you can kind of look at that timer. But yeah, the witching is perfectly fine. Hey, if you go down to 2 witching, 1 witching, at least you're still alive. And especially in that situation, that's actually pretty tough for a Red Mage to survive without any, like, you know, steal or strength or whatever. Make him go sleepy. Can it be sleep? Actually, I'm not sure if a bee can sleep. I guess we should take a look. I can't remember. The beetle, well, I don't even know where the beetle sleeps. Let me see if I can find a bee. Yeah, making them go sleepy is not a terrible idea, assuming they can sleep. Let's see if I can find one. Both are here. Amazing. They both do not sleep. So there you go. Not an option for Joxton if he was a Red Mage, or he or she was a Red Mage. So the bee wants to go first. Nice crit. Line of sight. My rule of thumb is, says Thurin, if it's a bug, it does not sleep. It's a pretty good rule of thumb. I know the Pictomancer guide that I had has all of the sleep and don't sleep. I went through the effort of doing that, but that is not stored in my brain because I don't often have a job that either A is sleeping or B needs to use sleep. What time is it? It's 38 minutes, so we've been here for 22 minutes. Pretty much just flying through here, and we just picked up an extra flight, so perfect time to say that. We're just going through. This is pretty chill. But again, it's chill because we kept the risk as low as possible, right? All the fights are in hallways. Sleep is available, but, you know, we're not really using it right now. Taking out the kills that are more quote-unquote priority. I like to kill the things that are in my way to go through things. Like, this bee had to go if I wanted to explore this room. And we're leaving everything else that's not in the way. There's, like, another bee that's over here by the chest, and I want to take care of that. Gonna check behind me to see if there's a patrol chasing me, and there, in fact, is a patrol chasing me. So we probably want to eliminate that one now. And that's one thing that you probably want to do, right? I mean, just double check your surroundings. You can kind of look through, like, far. Especially when you start entering into 151, you can see, like, almost the entire floor sometimes. And that could just be such a good asset to have when you're kind of just wondering where things are, you know? Gotcha, Joxton. Look, it happens, man. Again, it's a lesson that you will now have, you know, that situation. It's okay, it's learning. Yeah, and that Rhino attack can hurt under certain... Something just respawned in my ear. I think it was a bee. Like, in a situation where, let's say it's Gloom or HP down or something like that, the Beetle dash attack, Rhino attack, can hurt. Like, it can hit pretty respectably hard. So you want to be very careful, especially if you are dealing with multiple. As I mentioned, when I was an Astro, I got deleted when 3 came off all at the same time. And that's something that, you know, this is the part of the run where I feel like, especially in today's post 7.5 situation, that I feel like having the risk of death in 1 to 100 kind of does, you know, let you kind of, you know, buckle up a little bit and get ready for the run to continue to be progressively harder. And you could argue whether this floor sets are quote-unquote easy or, you know, like kind of a snooze or whatever. But without having to feel the stress of 1 to 100 now, which I presumably would think someone would not really feel as stressful anymore because they can die a million times and she'll get to 101, you might be a little complacent walking into 101 plus. And if you handle everything okay and carefully and everything, this place can be a breeze. Like, I would say we did not have any stressful moment at all. But things can go south, as Joxon was kind of mentioning. They can go south very quickly if you are not ready and if you're kind of like, you know, la la la. And you will now dump like 4 to 5 hours of getting up here. So just definitely keep that in mind that, you know, if you're having a little bit of trouble, if you're someone out there that is in fact having trouble through these floor sets, these are the kind of habits you can form to kind of make it a little bit smoother. I would definitely say I'm definitely in a good spot where I can create a lot of consistency through these floors and not be overly concerned about perishing. I can't remember the last time I actually perished through these lower floors. I did before. I remember, I think one of my favorite ones was when I died in like 87 to something that was completely, totally obscure, but we still perished anyway. It can happen. This boss, if it's your first time up here, the bosses do replicate itself from the previous 100 floors ago. So this is the same floor 10 boss, literally the same mechanics. That is not necessarily the case for every boss. There is going to be some adjustments depending on the boss that you fight. Just in this case, this one is not anywhere near, you know, crazy as the first one. But it is basically the same mechanics. You get the new battle theme if you have the BGM on. If you don't pay attention, you can still get deleted in the early floors of PoTD. Yes, you really can. Especially as specifically Red Mage. I would say Tank would have a little bit more leeway if things were to go south. You have a little bit more tools, a little bit more survival. Unless, of course, you're dealing with things that have, like, you know, one-shot mechanics, like a bee or a slime later on. That's where you kind of want to be a little extra careful, of course. But here, like, things do hit kind of like, you know, they're not hitting you like a PT or an EO where you're not really taking auto attack damage. Like, you're gonna get hit and die. I would say, like, if you stood around without steel and let something wail on you, I think you're probably dead in maybe about, I don't know, what, 5 to 10 hits. And then if you now add on another enemy on top of that, I mean, you're gonna die 2 times faster than even more than that, not including any, you know, attacks that you can't dodge, so on and so forth. With Red Mage here, it's gonna be kind of nice. You can get the heals off, so bear in mind, just a reminder, we started with no sustaining potions at the beginning of this run at 100, so we have 272. 272 is a good number, but that's not quite enough, like, per se, to be good enough for, like, the next 100 floors. So, like, you're gonna pick some up as you do some kills, you're gonna get some potshers, but if you feel like you're a little bit low, hey, this is like a way to kind of mitigate them, you know? You heal yourself on Red Mage to not use the sustaining potions, and you'll be at a good stock. Magic number in Deep Dungeon is about, if you're over about 200 on a floor set, you never have to worry about running out, because I believe mathematically, if you were to use it for every 30 seconds and every single minute of the duty, you'll be doing about a maximum of 240. And while we didn't even do 60 minutes, so maximum we'd be using here is 120. If you were to use that many for every second you step in here. So being over 200 on the floor set, you never have to really be worrying about running out. Of course, you have to worry about the one after that. That's right. Yeah, PoTD and Heaven on High crits in here. They are crits in here. They do not exist in the newer deep dungeons. If you're coming from PT and EO, well, welcome to crits. Welcome to old school deep dungeon and old school Final Fantasy 14. Oh yeah, oh baby, you still get crits here. Don't know if that's gonna still be a thing with 8.0. I mean, hey, this kind of run that we're doing might actually still be relevant when everything gets split up into Reborn and Evolved. If it's drastically different, we'll definitely do some type of renewal of the guide. But at least for now, it's good for what it is. Crits make you feel alive. There used to be a button in old PvP, or in this game, I think, where you can actually prevent crits, I think, right? Unless you get hit from the backside. I think that was, like, super old Heaven Sword stuff. Oh, I should use my button. So yeah, as you see, we're going through the rotation here. We're getting some heals off. Not a really complicated fight. Of course, the difference between now and like 100 floors ago is he's obviously lasting a lot longer than the floor 10 boss. If you did like me and just lusted the boss, you're probably dropping in like one cycle. Also, one big note here, by the way. Maybe I should just repeat this a lot. Be sure you're using your Lucid Dreaming on Red Mage, because you'll actually be surprised at the fact that you're going to run out of MP if you're healing yourself. Keeping Lucid Dreaming up, you'll be fine, but if you kind of have been strolling around the run without really using Lucid because you're getting your HP back, your MP back between rounds, yeah, you're going to probably be actually running out of MP if you don't use Lucid on the boss fight. 110 in the books. Nice and chill. Welcome to the 110 set, guys. So, if you made it through 101 to 110, the 111 set, if you made it through 110, great, congratulations. It's not going to get any easier. And actually, this floor set, 111 is actually a floor that even some of the veterans will raise in here, because there is quite a lot of shenanigans that can happen if you're not careful. And it also brings back the return of the cave floors. And the cave floors are notable because sometimes traps are a little bit hard to pass on this one, even if you're hugging the wall. If you've seen a lot of the guides that I put out, a lot of the information, maybe you're looking at Meiji's guide or something like that, a lot of the suggestions is like hug the wall, you know, make sure to avoid the traps. But here it's like you hug the wall and, well, you still might hit a trap. So it is what it is. I do not use a raising myself. I will neither say you should or shouldn't. Whatever you feel is necessary, you do what you gotta do. I will say if you raising here, you will more than likely get that raising back before things get really harder, much in like the 150s, etc. Will agreed, one of our veteran deep dungeon runners says they use a raising up to today. That's one thing to note on this floor set, and we'll like pinpoint some of the highlighted enemies that I will show you and like be like, hey, watch out for this one in this floor. Otherwise, again, take an observation of my movement, maybe some of my palm usage, and how I kill things. And we had a discussion on the previous floor set about patrols and controlling patrols and like kind of managing them. So those are the ones that you want to definitely take a note on, because those little bits that are like more habitual are things that could be very important in your gameplay as you go through this floor set. So let's enter. I do have 2 strength, but I will pop a strength to get through these opening floors here. So we're going to open with a strength here. Alright. So the leeches and the Bifurcerus, or the Urganites that I like to call them, are pretty low maintenance. They're not overly deadly, and they're kind of cool to fight. Their sight. The pudding is proximity, so that wants to be a little bit of a priority, and there's our first example of the good old Gigatoad, which is the one that you want to watch out for. It is a side aggro, but it is also a patrol. What's important here is that it has a literal positional. If my back is turned and my side is turned and it uses Sticky Tongue, I am getting stunned and I am getting hit with this Labored Leap. I am actually not even going to get out of that fast enough to displace to get out of that AoE. It's very important to face him eye to eye, give him a little staring contest. It's like one of the few, if not only deep dungeon enemy that has a literal positional attack. And that is one of the reasons why people like to raising. Because let me tell you, if you actually get multiple of those toads, because their hitboxes are so big, they might start kind of like drifting into one section, and you might actually get hit by a side attack from the sticky tongue by accident because it just was shifting over, and that can totally happen. And that is, by the way, with a steal. If you did not have a steal, there's a possibility it just kind of one-shots you if you're not ready. I popped the steal intentionally to showcase that, one, I wanted to show that tech to you, but two, it could actually do a lot of damage. Okay. Alteration. So one thing with alteration is that on a job that does not have an interrupt, you will actually see a lot of times that I will not use that alteration. And the reason for that is just simply because I want to avoid pox. I do have a couple rule sets in my head about what am I doing with pox if I have pox on and everything. Just a quick example here. If I already had pox on, if I had a mimic that I spawn, then I will be willing to use an alteration because my justification is, well, I already have pox on, so I mean, if I fight another mimic, who cares, right? And if it ends up being Corrigan's, then I save a lot of time. But you'll see I'll be a little bit hesitant on alterations. Unlike, let's say, Machinist. For Machinist, I'll use them as I see them because I can handle them, no problem, because I can interrupt them. Here, I basically have examined kind of a good side of the floor, so I'm just going to clear up to go to the exit, and we're just going to leave. Again, notice that I'm fighting in this little tiny hallway, and unlike the previous floor set, sometimes the hallways are big, sometimes they're small, and this is a pretty tight hallway here, that it does not have that much space. Oh, we're at the next floor. Alright. No knockback. Well, there's the mimic. I had Manification, I didn't continue doing the attack. So now, oh, and it dropped the Purity, very good. Actually, one thing that's good here, right? I took the pox, okay, we took the pox. One thing I do suggest about Purity management here, and there's a lot to go over in my opinion about Purity management, but one thing I will do on this floor set in particular is I will try to basically finish this floor set until I use that Purity, because I have a little bit of a superstition, especially if the first chest was a Mimic. I feel like, oh, maybe the next chest is a Mimic, and so I will try to handle the floor first before I really try to open that Purity, just to kind of prevent, I mean, what if you get another Mimic? Do it on your way out, you know? If you fight through this floor with Pox on, it's alright, it's not a big deal. Again, we're gonna face him now. So notice I don't get the stun, we're safe to go, so that's the difference with the Toad. And one of the notable enemies to worry about here that could potentially end your run if you don't handle them correctly. As kind of mentioned in 101, as much as it's a little bit of a common community comment about how 1 to 150 is a little bit of a snooze, a little bit boring, you know, it's not that exciting. Well, I would say, first and foremost, now with that 7.5 chains, 1 to 100, hey, you can die, and it's like kind of whatever. That's okay. That happens. But you step into 101, well, if you die, you're going back to 1. And things can go south very quickly, even though it's not, quote-unquote, that hard, like the higher floors. And, you know, you just want to keep the run going, so you can do some things that are going to make it a little bit safer. And in a lot of my runs, I have almost nearly every single run that I've done in the past... Oh boy, in the past 7 years between Deep Dungeon Online, raising is very nice. I would say there's a lot of consistency in the climb of the runs. We keep it relatively safe, we keep it relatively chill. So it kind of looks like we're steamrolling through it and, like, you know, not really overly worried about anything in particular. But we are doing things that is giving myself that advantage of not running a big risk. I don't do things, especially if I'm just focusing on the clear, I don't really do crazy tactics to get through. You do if you're doing scoring runs, because you kind of have to maintain a good score. That's a little bit different. But if you're kind of just focusing on the clear, I like to keep it kind of chill, get to those higher floors without too much of a concern. And if you're someone that, like, you're kind of struggling through the lower floors, even on these floors, with many people saying, "Oh, but they're the easy floors." Look, man, it's fine. It happens. You're learning, right? And doing my progression in this content when I was first learning it, I had a lot of problems through these floors. Like they took me. I think I remember I got to like 160 at one point, and I never got back there for like weeks because I was still clogging these lower floors, and it was so irritating. And it's just that's just normal. You're just learning things because you go through it the first time playing like maybe make it safe, and then the second time around you're like, confident. You're like, oh man, I did this once, I can do it again. And so you start losing to things that hadn't happened before, right? And one thing I always like to say is that, at least with the amount of time that I've been doing this content, if you get hit and you die to literally as many things as possible, or literally everything, you might run out of ways to die and you're just gonna clear. Because, I mean, there are only so many ways that you could possibly die, and every time you take a death, it's gonna be a story, it's gonna be something you don't want to have happen again, you know? And so you kind of make sure that you're not gonna die to that thing. I mean, you could die to something else that's very similar, but at least you won't die to that thing again, right? If you die to a final sting bee, you're gonna be paranoid of a bee maybe for your entire playthrough until you get the title. And that's okay, you know? It happens. But that's how you get better, because you make those mistakes and you learn from those mistakes and you get better. I lost to 140 Swiddlegreed about 3 to 4 times in my initial prog, when it's probably the easiest boss in 111 to 20. Yeah, because if you just make one mistake there, you're actually just gone. Like it's one of those things where it can get very bad very quickly. Ooh, we have a nice little rage here. I'm actually going to couple this with a sight right now, because again, it is the cave floors with a rage, and I kind of want to make sure I don't cause too much tragedy with this pull here. A slime, by the way, is one of the more deadlier ones, because that also is a DPS check. A little bit more concerning than a bee. It will enrage after about 35 seconds. If you leave it alive for about 35 seconds, you're kind of gone. I used to have problems with the hulking monsters in 141 to 150, says Tonberry Queen on YouTube. Those pads used to be brutal to me. Yeah, those pads are pretty rough. I have a question, chat, for you guys. For whatever reason, that one looked like a normal slime. The other slimes that I was fighting, I was actually seeing its mouth open. I don't think I've ever seen a slime with its mouth open. I thought it was just a blob. I didn't realize it had a freaking mouth. Is Meiji's Guide still good as War Cleric? I would still recommend it personally. There is some things that may be a little bit out of date. However, for the most part, look, I can actually still DM Meiji right now and be like, hey Meiji, there's something in here that, like, you know, maybe it just needs to be updated a bit, and she'll just update it right away. But for the most part, it's still pretty good. I think the only partial thing that would be a little off is just, if I remember correctly, Meiji's Guide is geared towards a Red Mage run. So if you're using it for a non-Red Mage, some of the things that may be indicated as more threatening or more dangerous may not be as dangerous on another job, if that makes sense. So like, it's kind of, you kind of do want to just kind of bear in mind that it is kind of set for like one job experience as opposed to encompassing all the things. But in terms of informational about, hey, this is what this aggro's as, this is what the CCs are, this is what this boss does, those are still accurate because nothing's changed in Deep Dungeon for all this time. So that's one thing to take a note on. Because even like something like an example would be probably a Frost Dragon in 181 plus, would be like, I don't know what she puts it on, but maybe to the extent of like, do not pull this because it's going to wreck you. And on a Red Mage run like this Red Mage, I would never pull a Frost Dragon, like no way, because it's just a disaster to pull that even with Strength and Steel. If I'm on Pictomancer, if I'm on Machinist, I will delete them and I will pull them because I'm confident with it. If I'm a tank like a Warrior, I can pull them because I can survive the amount of damage that it outputs. But again, that's a case-to-case basis. You could technically fight one on a healer without a steal if you kind of are on point with healing. It's just, do you really want to? It's just another question. But you can. So it's one of those things where each job does have a little bit of an adjustment, you know? Okay, so we have a Cobra here. A Cobra is interesting because, actually, you know what? I can actually demonstrate something if the opportunity presents itself. Let's do it. Yes, I can. So this Cobra has, it's an interesting enemy, okay? So we're going to pull it after I pull the Salamander because I can actually do the example right now. And I have a raising up, so it's okay. So the Cobra normally is not going to be really that threatening. It is actually a little bit rough to fight without Steel on because it does do a poison attack. And so if you're kind of not ready for that, or you're finding, again, another situation where you're fighting multiple of them, then that can get a little concerning, right? So watch this thing. We're going to actually stand here and get hit with this by, like, I don't know, for about, like, 20 seconds or so. Pretty normal. Cobra does a regurge, does a poison. So it just does auto attacks to the poison. The poison's probably, again, the most concerning. As you can see, it's like, you know, it's like annoying. It ticks down and everything. It doesn't stack, but the poison is, like, there. I mean, this is also without running any sustaining potions. We'll do another regorge. But this is all it does. It's just auto attacks and does poison. So why is this thing a concern? Well, there's a very specific situation that happens, and it concerns itself with that frog trap. If you get turned into a frog for whatever reason, this Cobra will now unlock a very special move, which you'll demonstrate because I have the raising on. I'm going to turn into a frog. Watch it. It does Devour. Devour! It's a one-shot, it eats you, you're gone. That's why it's concerning. So the Cobras up here in particular, you want to be able to fight them in a hallway, because if that happens, it is kind of GG, your run's over. Especially if you're moving through a room, not a great idea with this enemy. We were actually trying to do this in floor 11. I legitimately could not find a frog trap. But I mean, it's there. So it can also happen in floor 11. It's possible. But, I don't know, maybe it's very unlikely in the lower floors. So that's why these Cobras are kind of the next enemy that's a bit of a concern. Because of that mechanic that it has. So just definitely take a note of that one for your own runs. And a really good reason to kind of get that habit of fighting in a hallway. Because if you're running through a room while finding that thing and then you hit the frog trap, then, you know, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I warned you, you know? I found out the Cobra frog mechanic by surprise one time. Really ticked you off. Yeah, it's like, it's such a niche thing. Like, it's a very specific interaction for a very specific enemy on a very specific floor set. You know, so it's totally a thing, but at least we put it on display for you guys. What rage? I'll just use it. Wait, I actually want to check the other chest first before I use that rage. Because that could be a mimic. Also, I used the steel earlier and I didn't pick it back up, so that's kind of on me. But that's okay. And this is exactly why we check the chests first. Drop the chest, so I'll just kill the things around here. Just try to clear a way to the exit here. Yeah, everything else is sound, so I'll just go get it. Oh, and a salamander spawned. Sick. So I have to walk through that. That is also sound. If you don't know, if you do an RP walk here, you'll see the toggle on the top right of me walking. And this is actually walking. On a controller, or rather on a keyboard, it is just a button press. On a controller, I believe you have to hit hold either X or I think toggle something. Control is a little bit more janky. Oh, I'm sorry, or like easier analog. If you hold, I think what's weird though is, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. If you hold X, I didn't check these chests. If you hold X and you get hit while walking, you actually get kicked out of walking, which is really annoying, especially if you're trying to walk out of that. Only really happens again, like that issue only really happens if you're, let's say, like 171 trying to avoid apes, which do the AoE chest punts. I think when I was doing controller the one time, I was easing my analog, but I don't know, what if you sneeze or something and you just like jerk the analog? So it's a little bit like janky on controller, but yeah, obviously it's possible. And on controller, you just hit a button. I know some people who do controller guides, who do controller playthroughs will actually just access their keyboard to just hit the button for toggle for walk, just to make life easier. Like, that's totally a thing. Whatever works, you know. As long as it gets you the win, that's all that matters. It's triangle. Okay, thank you, Rich. Thank you for the confirmation. Is it by default? I thought it was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I changed my buttons. That might have been what it was. I might have adjusted my buttons to make that button. That could be. Maybe default is triangle. That's what it is. Speaking of near. Oh, good steal. I'm happy with the steal. One thing I didn't do correctly with the salamander, this is one thing I like to do. So we'll pull him. He does a Mukin, which is a stone skin. On the second cast, I'll hold my dual cast and then I'll cast sleep to cancel that Mukin. So you pull, do the double attack first, and the second one hold for the thing. You could also swift if you wanted for the sleep. Well, that's one way to kind of manage these guys if you don't want to deal with that that stone skin. I ran into too many times, Elder Child, of just easing the analog to walk, and then I jerk and accidentally run. So yeah, I just hit the default keybind on my keyboard to make myself walk the needle. Yeah, I think I actually did that when I was doing the controller run. I literally did the same thing. Like I was walking through like 2 worms, and I just hit it too hard. I'm like, okay, yeah, I knew that was gonna happen, and then I just perish. It's like, it happens. Oh well. Kinda makes you paranoid about that. Steal again. Yeah, it's good. There's a patrol coming out of here. So I'm keeping track of it. Again, I saw it spawn already. And I'm just kind of keeping note of it. Okay, getting the fresh steel and off we go. For whatever reason, the salamanders do have a little bit bigger of an aggro because their hitbox is so big. So if you're like, why did you aggro? You're equally as far away as the Nanka. Well, it's just because it's just a bigger hitbox. The turtles also have that problem where they seem to aggro a little bit further than like you'd expect a side aggro to do it. Pilgrim's Traverse is one example of that, where for whatever reason they're like the thing that aggroes you the furthest in the entire game. So if you're like, why did that aggro? It's not you. It's the game. It's the enemy. Alright, 117. So we're flying. We're 20 minutes into the floor and we're basically already to the boss. The Morbles are probably your next one that's a little bit more of a... I'm going to make a note of it. Whenever you fight this thing, sit in the hitbox directly in because you're going to get slow and sleep. It follows by bad breath. I can just run out of it if it doesn't wake you up. So high suggestion to go into its hitbox anytime you fight this Morble. Really good way to trivialize its moves. And also watch your feet because the Nanka are blasting their AoEs randomly at you. Red Mage with no abilities is not awful. You are missing some damage with your lack of the OG CDs, but at least you have most of your spells, which is pretty nice. You don't have your Gap Closer and the other stuff, but you're not as bad as some other classes without no abilities. So I would definitely fight through no abilities, but it would still take a little bit extra time to cut through the floor set. Ochu's blocking me from that chest, so I will get rid of it. I'm going to take a look at the other room just to see if a patrol is on my way. It is currently not, so we're good. Positioning yourself... This is actually a really good... another kind of discussion on patrols and everything. If you're in a dead-end room like this, like we are right now, it's not a bad idea to position your camera that you're facing this direction that I'm currently facing, because I can see the hallway, and this buys me, I would say, about 10 seconds. If something comes around the corner, I have about 10 seconds before that reaches me for a patrol. So if you're kind of concerned about patrols, that's where, like, you know, putting your back to the wall is not a bad thing. Honestly, I don't know about you guys IRL, that is something I do if I were to even go out to eat somewhere, or to just, like, if I'm vibing, like, let's say a library when I was in college at the time. I almost never sat in the middle or like not having a wall behind me, so I always had a visual of people going in and out. No one could surprise me from behind, and in essence that's kind of the same application that you have in a content like this, where you're watching for someone walking through the door. Kind of keep your back to the wall, and so nothing could possibly surprise you. Now, something could spawn on top of you in the middle of the room, but at least if you're in the hallway, you can at least know that if you're going to see something coming at you, it's going to be coming from in front of you, not behind you. Naturally, it's a lot harder in positions like where we are right now, where we have a front and a back, but even here, this is a dead-end room, so I could position myself facing this way the whole time, and I could fight the entire time like this, you know? So that's something to just keep in mind for your own runs. If you're trying, if patrols are a little bit of an issue, that's one thing to consider. And again, we're continuing to fight in this hallway. We pulled the Salamander because of that large aggro range. We stopped the sleep, which is perfectly fine. I want to check this chest, and then we'll be off to the exit. There is a Lust in the chest, but I'll kind of ignore it for now. You can use the Lust for a little bit of the vulnerability down if you want to. This thing just does auto attacks. Its damage could actually be surprisingly high, especially if you don't have steel on. You might be like, wow, this thing's actually hitting me. Because it has like a little bit of a faster auto attack speed for whatever reason. And this is like the finer details of certain enemies here. I didn't really clear this exit, but we're good. Ochu is proc, so that could aggro. We hit a trap there by the corner. That's the whole hugging the wall, but I hit a trap anyway. But good thing it wasn't anything overly bad there. Alright, 2 more floors to the boss. Lust is in, that's fine. 3-way room. So here I like to kind of check. It was mentioned in chat earlier that like kind of checking your entryways, each area that you go to, just to make sure everything's okay. Oh, okay. I can't cast because I was in status affliction. So I do my first dual cast. I set up my second one with the sleep here. Sleep prep. Yep. Okay, these two are sound aggro, so I don't necessarily have to fight them. And there is a patrol right here, so I'll take care of that right now. Again, we're fighting in the hallway. You'll hear me say that a lot, but I think it's good to kind of drill it in the head to where you're going to fight. You don't want to fight in a room, especially if you're moving a lot like me, because you may hit a trap on the way back and forth. So anytime you go through rooms, and this is another really good habit to establish, if you're going through rooms, always try to make sure that you're not walking towards an enemy or past an enemy, because what can happen is, if I go through this room and there's an enemy there, even though I can avoid the aggro by walking with the seedling, if I hit a luring trap, then am I going to continue walking, you know? It's just better that if you go from point A to point B, that you're limiting the risk of anything going catastrophic. If I hit a luring trap here, hey, it's only 3 enemies, it ain't 4 enemies, you know? I'm gonna sneak around this one to get this one. I might go and clear the exits, because there's 3 enemies in the exit that I can kill before this exit opens up. I think I have lost Serenity, and I didn't check the... I might have checked the chest in the exit. I think one of them was another Lust, potentially, so we'll see. But I think this was the Serenity, potentially, and then the other chest was in the exit. Alright, let's clear up the Salamander. Setting up the sleeve for the Nukin. Okay. Okay, one more floor to the boss. I do like having a strength for the boss. I can probably get away without a steal though. But the strength of the boss is kind of nice because you're doing with adds and a partial DPS check with the adds. The steal is going to be nice because the boss does hit. I mean, if you did the floor 20 boss and you were going at a rapid pace, when we did it, we were level 30 into 35, into a 35 boss, and it was hitting us pretty hard. It's not going to hit you that tremendously hard like it is now, but the sustainings won't be bad. Oh, we have the raising though. We got another raising. That's good. Okay, so we can... So with the raising, I feel a little bit more confident with doing the boss here. Hit a nice little frog trap there, but there are no more cobras here. So at least I don't have to worry about getting one shot by Devour, which we showcased earlier. Luckily, the frog trap in Palace of Dead, which is actually interesting, is that it is 20 seconds, where every other transformation and every other deep dungeon is actually 30 seconds, and it feels like an eternity. But 20 seconds only for that toad. Got another Morble that we want to fight in the middle here. Another Morble over there that's kind of blocking the entryway. Potentially exit is already open. Got a fortune back. We'll try to see if I can find any other chests potentially, or just head to the exit. I'd have to fight that Morble to get through, so I'm going to ignore it for now. The completionist would be there. There's another patrol. So I saw the patrol over there. I'm going to check what this room is. It is also blocked. So I don't know where I'm going. So I'm just going to pick one direction. So I'll go this way so I can get the chests. We'll come into this one. I just have to watch out for that patrol. So I saw that patrol, right? So I'm going to keep in mind that that patrol is currently behind me. And I'm going to watch its positioning. Because if it comes to me, it would have to be a fight, potentially. But it looks like it's not going towards me. I can probably run past this one, so I will, but I have to fight this Ocho here. Now here, this is the interesting part, right? I said to be careful in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a potion running through this room, because if I were to hit a trap, at least I have a potion running. Very good habit to have if you're in a scenario where you just have to fight something and you have to go through a room. If you've been kind of like chill on the potions right now, not a terrible idea to then use it there as you're navigating through a room while fighting something. So keep that in mind. It's a nice little tech to do to keep yourself a little bit more secure if anything were to happen. You hit a landmine, you hit a luring trap, at least you already have a potion running, right? Right, so we're going to do the boss without steal on. Again, it's fine. You get to see how it is. Not a bad thing to mitigate and hold on to that steal as practice, but... Alrighty, same boss as 100 floors ago. It has actually really the same mechanics that you're used to. It'll do a tank buster in this opening hit here. It'll do the AoE, the point blank, and then it'll have the bees that'll show up. The bees have to die. If the bees don't die, I'm sorry, but you're dying. That's just what it comes down to. So you have to make sure that you get rid of the bees as they show up. I have a little bit of a go-to strategy I like to do. Basically, what'll happen is on the first set of bees, I will opt to do a lust. When he goes into the bee formation, which is over here, the bees are going to show up, and then I pop the lust. Here, it's going to be a good idea for me to sustaining potion, because I don't have a steal on. And I like to kind of get the vulnerability on the boss here, just to kind of help kill it a little bit faster, while also taking out the bees. The bees will go in 4 hits, but you have dual casting, so it's going to be 2 hits. And then I get 1 more for the 5th vulnerability, and then we fight it normally here. So that's kind of what I like to do on this boss. It kind of helps kind of get it through, so we should probably drop it in maybe 3 cycles. Or like 2 sets of bees right before the 3rd set of bee. Gonna keep my HP in order here because, again, he hits pretty hard. I believe we started with 272 potions and now we're up to about 300, so not too bad with the stock. I believe they're jolly. I think they're pretty angry. So take out these bees, you will have about 3 line AoEs, and then roughly about 10 seconds after that, before they decide to do a final sting. Now, it is possible, by the way, it is possible to outrun final sting, but... I mean... It's possible. That's all I'm gonna say. You don't want to rely on that. Trust, I tried one time. I took a ninja file up here, and I tried to see how many bees I can spawn before they ended up dropping me. I got to like 6, and I just ran out of room. Like, it's not the easiest to actually outrun the bees, even if you had sprint and everything, so I just really wouldn't recommend it. Here we're gonna try to go for the kill. 6%, I think we'll have enough damage here to kind of wipe this out before the DPS check comes in for the bees. It's the third one, so there's gonna be one. This is the last one before they start doing the thing, but we're good. That is 120 in the books. 120. Welcome to 121. You got through here, great. I would say 121 is slightly more manageable than 111. 111 have a lot of tricky enemies to deal with the frogs, the cobras, the slimes, and the morbles. Here, there's not quite as many notable enemies to be like, oh, watch out for this one. If anything, it's like the first enemy, which is the Bice, which does like paralyze. But all the other ones, if anything, the only troubling part here is that a lot of enemies are proximity, and that can get annoying if you're trying to navigate to get to the exit. So we'll see how we do with kill counts. But that's probably the only one you really want to worry about. You're still in the cave floors, so your floor navigation and like avoiding traps are still going to be the same thing. The enemies are going to like statistically hit you a little bit harder, but their mechanics I think are, or not I think, I know, they're not as spooky as the previous set. Also, to the score runners, the guys who are very good at scoring and have dissected this place because of scoring, I'm going to open with a strength, by the way. We've been doing that the entire run. We open strength with the first floor. Also, the Spriggans here do shoot you from afar, so just watch your feet. They will shoot from a distance. If you're a score runner, or you know about scoring, or that might be a thing, a lot of the community does kind of call this luring city, because the luring traps are a little bit higher in this floor set than some of the other floor sets. And why that matters, I mean, if you're scoring, that's pretty good because you can get a lot of points. Why that matters to someone just going for a clear is that high chances are if you end up hitting a trap, it might be a luring trap, so just note that. Witching Seer might be pretty good to kind of hover your mouse over or put your cursor on if you're about to, if something happens, so just keep that in mind. Those are the Spriggans, not too bad. A lot of these guys are sight. I think a vast majority of them are sight here. So just gonna check these rooms. I'm passing in that alteration as I had mentioned in the previous floor set. I only use alteration if I already have Pox on, but I kind of don't want to force out mimics, because if I get mimics on the next floor, then I have to deal with Pox, and it's a whole thing. I mean, especially on these lower floors, it's not really going to give me that big of an advantage. It'll be a little bit more useful later on the run in the 151 plus sets than really here. So you won't see me use a lot of alterations unless I already have Pox on from a mimic. This device is the one, and you can see the Spriggan shooting from afar, by the way. This device is the one that's annoying. It is a sight aggro, but they do open with a Paralyze followed by a AoE. Now here, it's not a bad idea to kind of set up a displacement here, because he's going to open with the Paralyze, then open directly with the AoE. So it's not a bad idea as a Red Mage to use displacement directly after, but you have to also be kind of aware of where you're jumping. Because look at this hallway. This hallway is a little thinner. There's a couple thin hallways in these cave floors, so you don't want to jump into another room to just land into a trap. So just be careful if you want to do that. Also, you can also just move out of it. It's not going to kill you either. I have Steel on, so it's not a bad thing. We have the Witching here, and actually, I'm going to take advantage of the Witching because I'm gonna use it to not get the paralyzed of these guys. So not a bad play here, just to kind of take advantage of the free power matter. Take care of these Blights, and it looks like I already know where the exit is. The exit seems to be in that last room to the south. Watching our feet just in case the Spriggan decides to get a little spunky on us. The Tarok might move, and it is a side aggro. It's kind of been staying there for a little bit long, so there's a chance it moves by the time I get around it. It actually does not move. Cool. Thank you. Very nice of you. Sight, everything is sight. The Spriggan over there might be an aggro potential, because it might be right on the exits. Well, the Tarok is. Spriggan is about to move. We can be a little fancy with our footwork here. Watch this. Oh yeah, jump right over them. Let's go. Sometimes gap closures and jump backs like that, you can actually jump over the enemy to avoid their aggro, instead of just kind of running through. Not to mention I would have had to avoid the traps, so sometimes you can get a little fancy like that. If you're feeling a little, little spicy sometimes. Completely unnecessary. Take care of the Bice here again. I do not have the displacement here, so we'll just make sure that we're going to be in motion when the Paralyze comes in. I could also do an alternative where I kind of run back, and then I dab close in, like this. But I did it a little bit too early, but that's something we can do as well to kind of, in case I didn't have the displacement. My Tarok. I'm so paralyzed. Actually, I'm going to move first before I pull. Resolution. Not going to really do us any good here for now. I guess it's good for the stun, but... Take out the Spriggan because he can shoot from afar. Again, we're fighting in the hallways. That is the big theme here. Fighting the hallways before we do anything else. Now we move through because, you know, what if we hit a trap? Like, so we're being in control. Tarok did also move in our position. So here's going to be interesting because I like to trace my feedback when I go to the room to make sure that, like, hey, if I went one way, then I wouldn't hit the trap the other way. But in this case, I'm going to go around to avoid the Tarok. But we didn't hit a trap there, so that's okay. So that's actually another thing that may not be as obvious of what I do, but I like to kind of walk the same path I do through rooms. Because essentially, it's like you're creating a trail if there was a trap or not. Obviously, if you hit the trap, then the trap's not going to be there anymore. But if you walk a certain path and you didn't hit a trap, try to walk that same path over. At least you know, like, okay, I know that this specific route does not have a trap on it. And with the sight on, you can kind of eye where some of these traps are. Again, some of them are kind of tricky because they are by the wall. Not all of them are, but it can happen. Oh, that's a great combo. I'm probably going to actually Witching here. Reason is because it is 2, but also I can avoid the Poxima Mimic. That's a strategy that you can do to avoid the Poxima Mimics. It's going to be effective up to a certain point, because you basically have to make sure that you're going to kill it within 30 seconds. If you can't kill it within 30 seconds, then kind of no point in really Witching unless you are in a dire strait and about to die. So you can kind of mitigate damage there. In this case, we're just doing it to avoid the Pox, because I am not killing that in the amount of time available to avoid the Pox before it does it. Alright, let's go to the next 4. Moving at a nice rapid pace here. If you're in a nice groove and you're just killing minimal and going through the floors, you're gonna get through these floors pretty comfortably. Time will just definitely not be a concern at all, which is always nice to feel. And a nice kind of way to warm things up, especially until you get to those higher floors. Hastes. Safety. Very good. There's these turtles that can aggro a little bit further than normal. Sight. Okay, this gives me visual on where I'm going. The exit's over there. Alright, so we're gonna kind of fight our way. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna double check the exit to see if there's anything that could possibly aggro first. Clear up the exit if it is blocked by something. Wyver is a prox, but it's not in the way. But I'm gonna clear these 2 enemies before I go. And it is a little bit closer to the edge of this thing, so I'm going to pull it now because it could become a problem later. And this is kind of planning for the floor. You know, if you want to minimize the kills that you're doing, then that's one way to minimize it, by eliminating this thing out of the equation. Something could respawn, by the way, by the time I get back there, so it's not like a foolproof method, but at least we're kind of clearing out what's currently there, and I don't have to worry about it. There is a patrol there in the distance. It does not get here for maybe the next 15 seconds. This was, again, kind of following up the conversation about people concerned about managing patrols. And I can see down this entire room because it is one straight line. And this is what kind of helps you manage it. And also, again, like if you didn't notice, if you hadn't been watching the screen the whole time, the other rooms, I already recognized that there were no other patrols. Now, something could spawn, which is possible. And here I'm doing a quick check here, but I have my back to an empty side, so that means I'm not overly concerned with the patrol here. So that's kind of how you kind of keep yourself in control for patrols. Well, always checking around your surroundings, seeing where they are. Like I said, they're not going to teleport to your position. They're going to have to start from somewhere and run at a regular walking, medium walking speed, running speed, before they actually reach you. Okay, I'm going to try to get to maybe the furthest one to see if there's anything else I can pull. Maybe another strength would be nice, or a mimic. I used the witching already, so I'm going to have to deal with this mimic, and more than likely I'm going to have to deal with the pox now. Because I do not have strength on. I think if I had strength, I actually could have done it. So now we have the pox. On the lower floors, I do like to just ride the pox, because I'm not really that threatened by it. As a red mage, I can heal myself. I can actually mitigate the usage of a potion by healing myself. We have yet another mimic, and that Adamantoise decides to say hello. We have the steal on, so it's not gonna be overly concerning. We're gonna slowly drag everything over. This here is a nice little time-saving tactic, by the way. I've done a site, I've done a safety, there are no traps, so I can slowly kind of cast my way back to the exit, as long as I kind of navigate and make sure I don't hit something aggroing on the way. Watch my HP here. This thing is going to do its vulnerability down, but it's also for physical, not for magical. Just bear in mind, with the pox on, I do not have that auto healing, so you don't want to be a little bit too not paying attention to your HP, because if it gets too low and you're not running a sustaining, that could get a little spicy. 2 floors down with the pox on. Now, here, with the pox on, if I were to get an alteration, I'd be willing to use the alteration, because I already have the pox. That was one thing I was mentioning earlier, where we had the alteration, I wasn't going to use it. But now this is a situation where if I see it, I will use it. Auto heal disable and haste. So I already have auto heal disable, so it's not really that big of a concern. I'm going to take care of the turtles, because if they look to the exit, they will aggro. Because again, with their further aggro range. No patrols at the moment, I'll pull the other turtle. Toss a heal here. Gonna wait for the steal. This is kind of palm optimization. We have a steal in that chest, and the exit is right here. I will pop that steal when I leave, because I still have about 1.5 minutes of steal on. Kind of maximizes my steal length and my steal duration here. Alternatively, oh, we got another raising, which is nice. I mean, alternatively, I don't really need to steal for anything here anyway, so there's no need to kind of overcap the steal. I'll just wait till I'm about to leave. And these are, by the way, as I mentioned, these kind of little things, these are like very tiny things of optimization that can definitely help your run as you're going for Necromancer on any job, not just Red Mage, but any job. And a lot of these things add up. They can add up, if you want to think positively, they add up to saving your time. Or another way to look at it is they add up in not helping you waste time, if you will. And I think that's where a lot of my optimization has come into play. That's why we save so much time in general. That is a mistake. Because I do a lot of these little things that do add up over time. Like our pull speed, our movement, everything. It all kind of helps with the run in general. So like one of the very common things people will do is that they will pull something, they will fight something, and when they're done fighting, then they will decide what to do next. It's like, oh, let me go to this room. Oh, let me use this chest. Okay, and they're doing this while standing here. You know, like, oh man, maybe I should do. I should pull this adamantoise. Oh well, what if I pull this thing behind me? You should try to do that when you're fighting. And you should try to already have your answer, and you should always be in motion, because if you do that, right, that sequence I just did was what, like about 5 seconds? So if you do that every single floor, let's say you do it twice a floor for every single floor for 9 floors. So 20 seconds per 10 seconds per floor, 9 floors, that's what, 90 seconds, that's a minute and a half off the clock by you standing thinking about what you're doing next. And that's minimum. Maybe you do that more than what I just showed you, and that could add up over the course of a run, you know? So if you're someone that kind of gets a little bit into a time crunch, it may not be as simply as going faster or killing faster or using bombs more aggressively. It could be those tiny little things where, hey, if I just don't do that, then maybe I'm actually gonna save time because of it. And I think that's another one where I will do habitually that I don't fully explain a lot of times, that I don't go over when we're going over runs like that, but it all does kind of add up at the end of the day. Affluence. So now, I will go to the spawn room, which has the steel, pick up that fresh steel, and then head to the next floor. Many seconds, also the time it takes to kill some mobs on most jobs in higher floors without strength and steel. That's true. That is one extra kill. And sometimes, maybe people have experienced that you just needed that one extra kill to get through. That's true. I mean, again, it's... You have 60 seconds, 60 minutes in here, right? And 60 minutes may seem like a long time, may not seem like a long time, especially when your time is getting lower and lower. Everything you do. Hey, you know what? Another example there, teammate. Think you're in the final set in 191+. It takes about 90 seconds to walk down that ramp. And imagine you lost that 90 seconds because you were deliberating too much, and then you have only like 90 seconds to go, or like you time out. That could be victory for a Necromancer title, you know? Now, I do that thinking on the run as a DPS a little less than I do on a tank and a healer, but it's still worth having that thought process and that idea. Like, you're not really gonna be... I would say on a DPS, the Red Mage is included here, where you may not lose because of a timeout. I mean, you could possibly run out of time, but I would say the results of that happening is not because the job was slow, or not because you know, it wasn't doing enough damage. I think it's more because you make, you know, maybe you die to something, you lose a steal, you lose a rage, you know, you kind of make mistakes along the run that then kind of contribute to you running out of time because you ran out of resources, more like that. Whereas something like a tank, it's possible to do your best. You can kill, and, you know, not really make a mistake and still actually run out of time. So it's a little bit of a difference with the DPS, but with that being said, hey, every little thing can matter, and forming the habits now could help you in other jobs as well. And these wyvers are proximity, so they are priority. Right now, that chest looks a little bit in danger. Oh, you just moved, so now it's not in danger. There's also a possible trap here. Alteration. So I have 3 minutes of Pox on. I am now using that alteration, because by the time I get off this floor, more than likely I will have to keep that Pox on. That other gold chest, by the way, is blocked by 2 wyvers, and I'm kind of not currently wanting to fight through that. Always be fighting, or fight as much as you can, is something I try to do to save time while exploring. Yep. And look, it's one of those things where, like, it's like kind of the advantage you have a bit in Palace and Heaven on High, where, like, these enemies are not doing overly complicated mechanics. I mean, the higher floors of Heaven on High, yes, they are. But, like, here with Palace of the Dead, you're not dealing with, like, the levels of mechanics that are in EO or at all the EO, or maybe a little bit of PT, where dragging some enemies around are actually a penalty. You just have to manage those mechanics. So here you can kind of spend that brain power to kind of strategize, if you will. And it might be a case where, like, maybe... I know one of the common questions I get nowadays is if I'm going fast enough. Because some people, kind of like, by the time you hit specifically 150, 160, 170, and they're like, oh man, like, what the hell? Like, oh man, you know, I finished with like 3-4 minutes remaining on the clock. Like, I felt like I was going too slow, you know? And I'm like, no, that's honestly 151 with like 3 minutes, 4 minutes on the clock is actually really good. And it could maybe also come from the perception of like, maybe you're comparing your speed to my speed, you know? Maybe I have like 20 minutes on the clock, which is not uncommon for me to do. But those are those tiny little things that can actually really add up as to why am I actually going that much faster? What am I doing, right? I mean, if I'm doing a literal speed run, then yeah, it makes sense that I should be going faster than normal. But a lot of these runs that we're doing where I'm just yapping and talking and trying to give off information, I mean, I'm not doing anything extraordinary with the run. So, you know, if you're kind of wondering like, man, why are you still going like a lot faster than me? Well, it's the little things that I do, you know? Here I just opened the exit, I'm not killing past the exit if I can help it. Those things add up, you know? If it comes down to the last minute, yeah, you used all of the time available. Yeah, and the only downside is if you use a lot of resources to get there, then it kind of does feel a little bit bad. But I mean, if you did barely use anything and you finished the run with like, you know, a minute left, I mean, that's not a bad thing. That means you were optimizing your time to the best of your ability. Heaven on High is very common for that. That like you will probably finish with like a minute or less remaining on certain floors, and a lot of that is because you can kind of manage a little bit whether you use a frailty or a strength or a steel, which kind of can help you speed up a little bit. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, a win, like it's one of those old quotes that people say, a win is a win. And that's what it is. A win is a win. But I understand the idea of like, oh man, if I'm going slow here, what if I'm going slow in the next floor? I could see that concern. Like, that is definitely a legit concern. But that's where you want to look. I would say, especially with my runs, I'm sure the other veterans, you can watch them. Watch to what they do, like, as a casual thing. Like, what are they casually doing? Like, what is it that they've formed habitually that they're repeating? Because I definitely have a lot of tech that I do that is definitely on repeat. Because that's what I've kind of formed as something I want to do consistently. And so when it's consistent and you have consistent results, there's no need to change it, right? That steel's in the chest, so I'm going to hang onto the steel until I need to get out this room. Also, it depends on where the exit is. Because if I have to traverse, like, let's say... Oh, actually, this makes it a lot easier. Plus, there's a respawn. Okay, exit is all the way down there. So, what I may want to do is I want to make sure the path is more or less clear. We also have a problem where I did alter this room, and the room after this is not altered, which means the exit is altered. So I may have to concern myself with possible mimics here. So what I actually may want to do in this situation... what I may want to do in this situation is I may want to take that steel and run to the exit so I don't have to come back here. And then at least this makes it fine. And especially if there's Korrigans down there. Actually, no, it doesn't matter because I already opened the exit. But we're going to try to make our way and push our way through. Sight. Wyver's proximity and the effigy is a sight, so I get an aggro no matter what I do. Oh, you're blind. Never mind. That should have aggroed, and he decided not to. That's, yeah. Can't explain that one. That should have aggroed, as far as I know. That's a lust. Okay, no chest from you. Alright. What are we on? 27, 38 minutes. Kind of been like averaging this amount of time each floor set so far. However, this is where this part of the difficulty of this specific floor comes in. You're gonna see a lot of proximity enemies. So if you're following that rule that I had earlier of like, oh well, if you want to kill minimum when the exit opens, you want to try to get to the exit. If you kill anything past the exit, you're going to be wasting time. Well, this is a situation where sometimes it can't be helped. You know, it's just there's so many proximity enemies. So what are you supposed to do? So here, I checked that room. That chest is blocked by one-sided enemy, so I'm just gonna ignore it for now. If you're in the dire strait for chests, I definitely would fight for it. But here, no, I'm trying to go at a moderate pace here. I'll get another owl, and the sight is actually very good. I don't know what I just pulled because I hit a button by accident. Okay, cool. So now the exit is over there. I can probably check this chest over here. I'm actually gonna see if I can. Yeah, I should be able to disconnect that chirp. Good. So that is blocking me. So for me to get the chest, I have to kill 2 things. So I'm not going to take that chest right now. I can, like I said, I can fight for it, but we're not really close to the exit, and we have to fight our way through here. Okay. Checking my surroundings. There doesn't seem to be another patrol, and I'm going in this direction, although that centaur might aggro. Okay, more than likely this aggro's, and there's another one anyway. There's a basilisk over here, so I might actually move with this enemy if the basilisk doesn't turn around, which it unfortunately did turn around, so I'm gonna have to wait here. So I'll fight the centaur instead. I already see the trap, so I can actually move to this room already. I'm gonna take that bronze chest because we did start this run with no sustaining potions and no potsherds on purpose. So that's definitely going to help with the stock of potions for the later part of the run. So that bronze chest was a little bit good to have if you're starting super fresh with this run and you didn't do any pre-farming, which pre-farming is not necessary at all. But this is how you kind of make it not necessary. It's kind of taking a little effort to get those bronze chests, etc. Here, this is what I was talking about. So the exit is kind of blocked by definitely 2 enemies, possibly 3. And I basically had to fight my way over here. So the exit opens now, and it's like, you know, whatever. What am I supposed to do? Like, I did kill as much as I could in the minimal amount. But the proximity enemies all over the place. And it'll be 3. No, almost 4, because the basilisk decides to show up. There's also that part. Watching my back in case another patrol shows up, but I already know that respawn, so don't really have to worry about anything else here. So that has to get pulled because it's right on top of the exit. It is a proximity enemy. I'm actually going to position myself near the exit, because if the basilisk turns around, he might block me from getting the exit. If I'm already over here, I can probably get an angle to get into the exit without too much of a problem. No! He decides to come in toward the exit. It happens. What can you do? And so these are the situations that happens, right? But this is where, like, if you save time on the previous floors, especially if this is something that happens in the later floors, if you do really good on a previous floor, stuff like this, you can just shrug it off because it's like, I banked the time, you know? Two more to the boss. Strength. I'll take the strength. And a haste, which should be good. Again, you're still going to be dealing with those proximity enemies, so we're going to be a little bit selective on our pulls here. That is a straight line, so I can actually ignore that effigy and try to get through. Just being mindful of a possible trap on the donut room. Skipping the pull, even though it's an easier enemy. Well, we got a mimic. I might be able to delete this thing before it does the pox. Possibility, but might be a low chance. Oh, we did! Nice! Okay, there we go. That's a full burst. Fortune, but I can't do that again if I have to burst again. Effigy, strength again. Let me pull the effigy here. I may come back for that strength to kind of optimize it, because if I come back for that strength fresh going into 29, I may have a strength into the boss. Because the floors are still a little bit on the less complicated side. So this one in particular, I will try to come back for. There's one patrol. Okay, the exit is right here, so I definitely will go for that strength after I clear up the exit here. Dodge. I love when I dodge when I'm sleeping, it's great. Here it looks like I have to just... Well, I'd have to pull both if I want to go to the next room. So my food choice, Tomberry, I do prefer spell speed direct hit. Twofold. First and foremost, direct hit is good to have because you do not have innate direct hit in here or in any deep dungeon. So giving yourself direct hit via food will now allow you to direct hit on enemies, aside from any ability that puts it on you, like reassemble or inner release, etc. I think reassemble. Anyway, inner release would do that. So that's one reason I like the direct hit. Now for casters in particular, I would say I'm like a caster main in Final Fantasy XIV. So I can kind of feel the subtleness of spell speed, and I like that little bit of spell speed on the food. I feel like I can feel it. I prefer to be a fast caster, so I like the spell speed on all casters, minus Pictomancer, because Pictomancer you're not casting that much. So like Pictomancer, I would use like a slightly different fruit, which I think is the direct hit determination fruit. But on all the other casters, so Black Mage, actually I think Summoner I would use the other fruit too, but Black Mage and Red Mage for sure I utilize the spell speed fruit. Okay, so the other chest, by the way, was blocked by a Centaur, and I'm not really looking for anything, so I'm just gonna go to the exit. Cast speed doesn't affect the cast time for pictures of Pictomans. Yeah, that's one reason I don't like it, because you'd be doing it on your paint, your GCDs, but you're mostly using it on, you're mostly casting using your motives. Like that'll be good for a boss, but that's about it. So I feel like I get more bang for my buck with the dead direct hit on most DPS jobs, minus Red Mage and Black Mage. So fresh strength. Ideally, I do want to get to the boss with a little bit of speedily so I can have that strength going in. If I go into the boss without a steal, I will fight the boss without a steal. I partially recommend you do a steal. However, if you don't steal, then you're going to want to do a little bit more sustaining potion usage. So it's kind of like, okay, well, if I have a lot of sustaining potions, then, you know, you can bypass the steal. If you're a little bit low on sustaining potions, may not be a bad idea to consider a steal. You will get it back for sure. But the boss can get a little spicy in terms of damage, and might be actually a really good first test example of what to do. With like kind of managing your healing on Red Mage to kind of mitigate the usage of a steal, etc. You can get some decent practice because it does hit you pretty often and semi-respectively hard. I hit the wrong button. Gosh darn it. Okay, gonna like just clear up some of these chests because I basically have the exit already cleared. So now it's just like, okay, what can I find now before the exit opens, right? I should not pull the Earlith at all. I'm gonna sneak through here and check that other chest. Oh, the steal comes in. Okay, so we can at least steal. I will steal for here. We have it. We'll use it. Which means I really don't need anything else. If anything, I did do this recently without steal, and maybe I'll slot in some like clips about what it looks like without a steal on. But we'll just go to the boss right now. Now, lusts here are gonna be kind of common. I would say it's very rare for you to basically not see a lust, and really you only need a lust by like 190. So I'm going to open with lust here. Not a terrible idea to open with a sustaining potion as well to kind of get those healings, passive healings, because you can't heal in a succubus form. So we're going to get the lusts off here. We're going to get to 5 and then move in. Here you can have a little fun with Red Mage. You're just looking for 4 puddles. Once the 4 puddles comes in, then I'll dive in with a displacement. Nice, look a little fun and fancy. So here the damage it will intake will be a lot more manageable. Without the steal, you definitely do have to do a lot more healing. And here I'll kind of save the displacement for when I have to dive in, which is now. You want to be in right about the outer circle. of the hitbox. You can be actually just outside the hitbox and you'll be perfectly fine. But just get in, cast, and you can jump yourself out. No big deal. Take advantage of the full ranged attack from the combo that you could have on the Red Mage now with the recent patches and everything. Gonna get a double heal here. Perfect timing for that heal. Going in. Going back out. So that is, by the way, on the cast bar. So you kind of see that, like, he barely even finished that animation. I'm jumping out of it, but the cast bar already committed, so we don't have to worry about that timing. I think this fight is such a good example of trying to practice what I like to call, what I like to indicate as optimal healing. When you do Red Mage, one of the biggest things you want to try to get down on your run as Red Mage is to never overheal at any point. And if you overheal, that means that could have been something you could have just done as damage. One thing I like to do with that is I like to kind of hold sometimes the double attack. If I do an opening Vercure heal, I like to kind of hold the second one to make sure. Here, I'm just going to do, like, normal attacks and everything. But as long as you have, like, a little bit of HP remaining when you do the healing, that's pretty good. But if you're over-healing, that can get a little bit of a bad habit. Because that's something where, like, if you're starting to panic about your healing and trying to keep yourself alive, you might just heal too much. And you're going to lose a lot of damage that way. This fight, because the damage is often and pretty moderate, not a bad way to kind of understand how much healing you're doing with strength or without strength if you're running without strength. So if you sit between that threshold, I like to say between 50 and 80%. That's like the sweet spot of the healing. So you will see my HP kind of be around like 60 a lot of times. Because I'm kind of trying to get in that threshold where like one heal will be enough to kind of keep me going. There's also engagement about like how much damage I am taking and kind of this understanding of like, well, you're not going to drop me from 50% all of a sudden, right? So at least I'm not going to get surprised because damage in essence is pretty consistent. If it hits you hard, it hits you hard. If it hits you mediocre, it'll always hit you mediocre. It's just, you know, how long does it take to kill you kind of thing. So that's one thing you're also noticing about my HP. Yeah, I kind of ride the HP around like that 60% mark. See, I'm sitting at 50 here, but I'm not overly concerned because I know how much my heal is going to do. I take a hit here, I can double heal, not overheal. Perfect. That's exactly what I want to see. Alright. That is 130 in the books. Let's do it. Stepping into the 131 set. I would say, in terms of difficulty, again, in Palace of the Dead, it scales pretty appropriately. So things will get progressively harder on paper, but it does depend on the mechanics that you're dealing with. So, for example, I had said that 121 felt a little bit easier than 111, even though things technically hit you harder, the mechanics are a little bit less tricky. 131, I would say, is an appropriate increase of difficulty. There are a couple things to be worried about, but not that much. I think the only thing that you're actually concerned about are the Aramon that are over here because of their Petrify, and they are patrols, so you have to kind of be watching out for them. But the boss, we have a really nice, easier strat to kill it, unlike all the other bosses. That's where Resolution will come into play. So here, let's step in. I'm going to re-up the food again. Let's go over how we get through this floor set on Red Mage. Alright, so as I've been doing on all of the sets starting at 101, we are going to open with a strength here. Heck dies are sound. Contrary to popular belief where they have 10 eyes, none of them work, so they are sound. Which is good to know because you don't have to fight them, but they are kind of one of the easier enemies to deal with. just gonna bypass this because I do want to check where the other things are. One thing to always almost calculate for is the possibility of a treasure room. So, you know, you don't want to, like, kill so much and then all of a sudden your exit as a treasure room, now you have to kill so much more. So that's one reason I'm skipping that. Once again, we're skipping the alteration because I don't currently have Pox on. I already see an Aramon ×2 flapping its wings towards me, so I definitely want to get rid of him. And also, this is a straight line, which means, it's going to be a problem. So we're going to get one, pull it. I'm actually going to potion here because I want to get across this room, and fight into the hallway. A really good habit to have, there's the L5 Petrify. Front conal, not a gaze, front conal, so just be away. Really good habit that if you're going to travel through a room while fighting something, pop a potion in case tragedy happens. Because you could hit a luring trap, you could hit a landmine, stuff can happen. At least this gives you a little bit of extra safety. Here's another one, I will pull this one right now. And I have to make a mental note, right? This is where, again, one of the main themes that I'm going to kind of press on is the fact that we had someone ask about having a problem with patrols. So I let one go, which is behind me, heading to the spawn room and then over. So I'm kind of making a little bit of a mental note and maybe double checking once in a while to see if it's on its way back. Right now I don't see it, so I probably have a lot of time. I would almost guesstimate about a minute before it returns back to this area. More than likely I might even get off the floor before it returns, but... Okay, in a rage, and if anything, I don't have to worry about it. Here, a good check to do is to check all the gold chests before I hit that rage. So if this is a mimic, we actually had this happen on the previous floor set. If it's a mimic, then I eliminate the mimic with the rage. One less thing to worry about. It's good to have a little bit of patience there. Here, I'm going to be a little bit loose about walking around the floors. Going to take this aggro, just in case I hit a trap while in the process of doing this. Alright, we're off, and then we're just gonna go. Let's see where that patrol is, by the way. Didn't see it, so it's still gonna probably take another 30 seconds to get over here, so I'm not really concerned. If for whatever reason it actually was close, then I would just go assassinate it. Still don't see it. It's a lot of time, but you know that it's there. Like, you can be like, okay, it's somewhere there. I know it exists. I acknowledge your existence. Fortune. We use it. Silver chest can bypass these two enemies to see what else is in this floor first. Another heck dies. Ogre's sight. I'll pull it because he's kind of looking into the room I want to go to. Can't see through this pillar, so there's a possibility that a patrol could be here. So I'm just going to kind of keep my visual over here just in case. Okay, now we move. That's a sight. That's a sight. No current patrols at the moment. Affluence, which I'll use. So here, I kind of want to clear up the exit a little bit. Probably pull both ogres. But while in the process, I'm going to position myself so I can see this room. Because I know, for a fact, that there was no patrol currently behind me. So now, this is the only way a patrol can show up. Therefore, I will make sure that I know if it's going to show up, that I will be ready for it. And these are the tiny little things that I do on a regular basis to kind of prevent that type of tragedy from happening. And these are the kind of habits that you do want to form. I mean, maybe it makes you look a little paranoid. You're always looking around the corner. Imagine doing that IRL. You walk into like literally any store, like a supermarket, and you're like checking every single aisle. I mean, it makes you look a little paranoid. But hey, in Deep Dungeon, that's precisely what you want to do because you want to make sure you don't cause any issues. Here, this is a small room. Currently, there is no patrol, but the respawns are a little bit quick. I believe they're about 90 seconds for respawns up in this floor set. And the next one, so you're not 100% being like, oh, I'm good. Okay, no patrols, we don't have to worry about it. I mean, something could still spawn. So it's still not a bad idea to kind of keep yourself on a swivel to make sure that you're not going to get caught up with it. Oh, I didn't have a dive in. Okay, gonna walk here to get that chest, and then we're gonna be off our way to go to the next floor. 5 minutes into the first 2 floors are pretty dang good. This ogre is gonna have to pull, so I will fight this thing. Didn't have a problem before, but unfortunately we have a problem now, so we're just gonna take care of it. Now, I've already walked this path, and I did not trigger a trap, so I'm gonna trust myself to know that I will not duplicate that. I will be able to duplicate that, and get through without hitting another trap. Respawn here with the soul. We're gonna RP walk because they are both sound. And there we go. Efficient. Plus 1 kill. Had to kill an extra one to get off the floor, but that's okay. Get the bronze chest for okay, get the bronze chest. Potsherd's pretty good. Fortune again, which I'll use. I'll kill this right now. It's just here. The mummy is proximity, so he will be a priority kill in the sense that it is blocking a room and kind of near to the exit as well, so we'll kill it because of that. Purity, just in case we get a mimic. Always kind of wary of a donut room because a lot of it, there's a good number of traps that are along the wall. Here again, we have another mummy by the entryway, and we have one patrol in the distance. So here this mummy goes because it's going to block me from that room in case I want to get a chest out of there. I do want to check behind me in case there's a patrol coming, which I do not currently see, and there's another mummy over there. So this is where, like, the pull selection is also important. Like I said, I said this, like, one of our other runs before in the higher sets, where if you're trying to figure out what to do better on a run and you're trying to see and try to pull information off of anyone else doing the run, I can tell you from my own experience that every pull that I decide to do, every single one of them will have some type of purpose and some type of logic behind it. It's not necessarily to say that every single pull is the correct decision, but if I decide to pull something, it's because there was a reason why I pulled it, if that makes sense. Raising is very good. You know, maybe I'm preventing an aggro, or maybe something walks into me. Okay, well, I have to deal it now because it just aggro because I mismanaged my position. But everything has like an explanation as to why I did the thing. I feel like with this type of tutorial, we'll be a little bit more verbal about that. You know, in terms of what enemies do and their aggro types and all that stuff will be a little less in this type of video. Those you can definitely check the other videos like the Machinist and the Picto if you want that information. This one is more about the execution. And Red Mage to me especially is a little bit more on execution, in my opinion. I think to get through on a Red Mage run, you'll have to definitely do a little bit more on being able to play the job on top of being able to do Deep Dungeon, if that makes sense. I've always believed that Red Mage is a little bit more of a much higher skill ceiling, unlike some of the other classes. Not to say the other classes are easier to pick up or something like that. It's just there definitely is going to be a variance of how you handle this class versus anyone else, versus someone else. And for other people, this might be a lot more difficult just because maybe you're not used to the movement, maybe you're not used to the casting, you know, all that stuff. And that's fair, you know. But here, we can put on display how I do it, and hopefully you'll be able to mimic it and get good results. Checking the chest first before, if it's a mimic, it is not. Ogre might aggro, which is fine because I need another kill. Exit is already open, so we're just going to kill enough to get the exit. I have one more pull in that room that I could do. The steel, the strength is now gone, by the way. So we're going to kill things a little bit slower. Okay. Heck dies. It is a piss key, as the community likes to call it. That is a very light yellow key. Whenever you see that, you can feel a little unlucky because you needed quite the high kill count to get off. Kill counts are a little RNG period. They are RNG period. Sometimes you can get it out as early as 4 if it's not flighted. You may need as much as 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 possible. On these floors, you're probably looking at a maximum of maybe like 8, maybe 9. The higher floors, that number's going to go up. No sprint. Unfortunate. This is a dead end. We don't see a patrol, therefore, we're not going to get snuck up on. So anything in front of me, there could be a patrol, but at least I'm not going to get anything behind me until there's a respawn. Gubu! These are considered undead, by the way. That matters if you get a resolution. Nice crit, bro. Another Gubu coming in. And another one. Be careful because it's coming in here. Goos are scary. These Gubus can be, the higher level ones are than 191 plus are uber scary. Here, I think if anything, because you're scared of the ones before, they will be a little bit more kind of like intimidating, but at least here on this floor, it's not that bad. I'm a little bit more afraid of the Aramon, because the Aramon mismanaged can go really bad. And, Karker, you have now willed in another Gubu, because we were talking about it, so they're like, hey, did you need another one? Well, at least it spawned in front of me, I guess, because now I know that the respawners here. Does backflipping away from an enemy annul or mitigate an auto? It can. Think of it this way, right? He hits me, I run away, he has to chase me. He has to chase me to get to me. Look at all that time that he didn't hit me. But yeah, it can. So you definitely can, and I use it a lot, Kenzo, for that kiting. Displacement is super good. It's just you have to be careful where you position your displacement, of course. You don't want to land into a trap. You don't want to land and aggro something on the way. But if you have good control of it, like maybe you're in the spawn room, oh yeah, baby. What I like to do a lot also is to gap close into the enemy and then displace. Because if you gap close into an enemy from a far location, the enemy kind of has to go to your original location first and then turn around to come back and to chase you down. So you kind of save quite a lot of time with that whole sequence. And that is actually one huge kiting skill that I use on Red Mage to survive. You'll see me do that a lot. Because first, I love doing it, but second, it is really good for survival. I mean, think of it this way, right, Kenzo? A sustaining potion tick is every 3 seconds, right? That is a server tick every 3 seconds. So if you buy yourself 6 seconds of not getting hit, that's 2 ticks of healing that you made your HP back if you got hit really hard in those higher floors. Like, that counts for something, you know? You might even have to cancel the Ver Cure because you did that. So that's something that becomes very important to do and to get used to. That's why, like, I think it's going to be interesting for people who might be hopping to Red Mage either for the first time or something. If you're used to a raid and you're used to doing it in, like, you know, those type of fights and everything, you might be conditioned in your rotation to pop in your gap closer and to pop in your displacement as damage buttons, you know? But here, to utilize them for kiting, like here, we'll do this example here. I love doing that. And that's a really good kiting tool. You will save yourself hits and ticks and everything. That's one of the Red Mage special ones. I mean, I do that sometimes on Samurai. Samurai can do that, because you can gap close and jump back, so I do that a lot with them too. But any job that has that, I try to utilize that, but not a lot of jobs can do that. Yes, yeah, max gap closing. So we can actually showcase that in... Let's see. Okay, I think maybe this guy's going to be able to be good. He's going to open with an AoE, I believe. So I'm going to wait for his AoE to come in. I gotta get max distance though. Okay, if I displace here, right? And then I wait. Okay, this is actually a perfect example. So watch his movement here, right? So I gap close in. Watch, he still has to kind of go a little bit of distance away, and when you couple it with the displacement, he has to take some time to adjust here. He has to turn around to be able to get to you. So, I mean, that may not seem like a lot. That may not be like, oh, but it's like, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Look, man, half a second, 1 second, it's like, that's huge. That can be the difference between dying and surviving a fight for 1 second. Maybe you have your stun up in a second on another job. Maybe your dual cast is up in a second. Maybe you need that 1 second to get a dual cast up, you know? Okay. Oh, I still can't actually use chests here. Resolution would be kind of useful because you have a couple undead. The Dahak are one enemy I don't enjoy fighting, and actually it's a little bit bad on a Red Mage because this thing will use disease, and what is disease? Lower healing. So that means your heals are actually going to be a lot less effective while this thing is on. So bear that in mind. Especially if you're going to deal with, let's say, multiple enemies, this one can catch up to you because your heals are not nearly as effective as they were without this debuff. This one is a little bit Red Mage specific here. I killed it because I wanted to get access to this chest in case it's anything useful. So it's a witching, not really. So I'm going to not fight the other one. Although, I am on diminishing return for that DR, but however, these things have just respawned. They're both blocking me from the exit, so we'll fight this one. Perfect. Out of here. Unfortunately, couldn't open any of these chests. I'm holding out surrendering. 42 minutes into the first 5 floors. Pretty dang good. 18 minutes. One Airmon coming my way. One Monk here, which is a proximity. I would like to try to get access to that chest, but it's blocked by 2 Dahaks. I do have that Airmon en route. So I want to make sure I kind of pull this one out of here. If it decides to do Sucker, I will sure cast. If it's going to bring me into the Airmon, which it does not. No, you take care of the Airmon priority. No other patrol at the moment. L5, Petrify, I'm looking to where it's facing. If you have a little bit of a trouble like seeing where it's facing, if it's front side, use the radial arrows. The big arrows are where it's facing towards the front, so that helps you. There's some enemies out there I actually have a hard time figuring out whether it's its face or its ass, and that kind of is a big help when you look at the arrows. Airmon, of course, is a little bit easier, but I was just kind of looking at the arrow more than its actual face. Here I can get around the long way, kind of ready for a trap if needed. Hugging the wall, clean. Mummy needs to go because it's blocking the chest and is blocking my pathing to the left side of this arena. I can go to the right side. That other mummy might give me a problem on the left side. I will just pull it because I don't want to cause an issue. Like, the worst thing you want to do, especially in the cave floors, is as you're navigating from room to room, you take something with you. And if that's going to be like, I'm not sure, just pull it. Just get rid of it. Because if I hit a luring trap or a landmine and then that thing also aggroes, you can cause a major issue. So here we're kind of just lowering the risk of anything catastrophic from happening. If, let's say, the worst were to happen, which is a trap. Holding on to that steel. I'm gonna use it more on my way out because I don't really need the steel yet. Pulling this mummy because that opens the door for me to get that other chest there. And it looks like I know where the exit is, which is on the south side, based on a matter of deduction. Oh. I thought I needed to do that swift cast. Apparently I did not. I'm gonna sneak in here, get this thing, and then work my way down. I might actually pop the steel already. Gotta use that affluence, because then I don't have to go back. What is the other chests? I don't know it. Oh, I didn't check the other chest because it was blocked by 2 Dahaks. That's right. So I ignored the chest. Okay, it's fine. I'm not going back for it. I will pop the steel now, so I'm gonna come back. Hugging the walls continually. One monk has to go, and then you have the Troubadour, which is box, and the other 2 are sights. Could be a possibility that I have to pull the Troubadour, and I'm gonna see if I can sneak that chest in, depending on where everything is. Oh, currently I could not get that chest unless I pull the Dahak. Although, the Dahak did turn away from it, so I could do that. But the Troubadour moved towards the chest. There is that. I still have to fight something, so I guess we'll fight the Troubadour. Again, just as a safety play, unless you're really comfortable, I do have the raising on. I wouldn't get too much into the habit of moving with an enemy and then checking a chest, which is something you'll see me do often, but if you want to play safe, don't do that. With the raising, I can be a little bit more risque there. As we're doing right now, but is basically dead. Resolution, which I don't need to currently use, so we're okay. Yep. Okay, gold chest here with a silver chest. Intuition. Another gold. I'm gonna ignore enemies here for now while I push in 2 patrols. I'm just gonna pull one right now because I do not want to fight both of them at the same time. So I know I have about a couple seconds to go. I can actually pull this all the way into the spawn room. Also, I did not check the other rooms if there's patrol coming up here, and there is actually. Kinda heard it too. So I'll pull the one coming towards me, and I'll let the one going away from me go. That is the exit, noted. Ah, strength is nice. I'll use it right now. Ooh, that's fine. Troubadours are pretty easy to fight. I think that room is kind of open for me to get in and out and check the chest without having to take an aggro. So I'm gonna go here instead. I think I checked this chest, did I? I did not. Okay, I checked the other one. Oh, there was 2. I didn't know there was 2. Okay. Troubadour mine aggro? Did not. Checking the other room. This means... Oh, this is a dead end. Okay. Sometimes that's also something you can get to. Like the patrols give you information, especially in the higher floors, about how big a floor is. So if you see it go into a room, and it takes a little bit for it to come back, that means there's either another room, or there's even a pathway to like multiple rooms. But if the thing comes back right away, you see it go into this room and it comes back within like, 10 seconds, then you might be dealing with a dead end. And that could be really useful to know just information-wise, Oh, there's only one room over here. That type of info can be very useful sometimes. Okay, popping the fresh strength here. And then we'll check the chest. Oh, there's another chest here. What could I possibly want, though? I'll check it. Raising. I already have raising on. So I will check the chest that's in the exit room. Might get the Troubadour. He's a little close, but we'll see. I think I get him. That's fine. What the? I think I got interrupted there. And a respawn. I'm gonna try to get ahead of the respawn here so I can not get the aggro. Okay, checking the chest before we go. Steel! Fresh steel, that's good. Mine was down to 4 minutes. So these buffs probably don't take me into the boss though, so I'm gonna have to hope I see another strength or steel coming into the next 2 floors. And then we'll have it for the boss. If I have it come in this floor, I may have it for the boss going into 140. But the one I got in 137, I think usually that won't be enough time for me to get to the boss. Unless I like flighted or like we had like a quick kill or something like that, or like it was altered. Taking the auto heal out of here. Okay. I'm gonna pull one of these already because I may have to go through that area. Here you have the monk right there. That is blocking the entryway to another room, so that is a priority kill. Anything blocking ways, anything blocking pathways, those are the kills that I deem priority. So it's not so much like if they're easier or harder, it's more that, okay, well, if I want to check this room, that might be the exit, you need to go. Witching is good for any backup, just in case we, let's say I have to pull the Hawk. I can walk Witching the Hawk, you know. Fortune is good. There's an Aramon coming my way to my left here. Which also means that took a little bit to come down, so there may be another room here. Just by the nature of that, and there is another room here, and I don't have to check the room that I was in earlier, which is the north one to the east. I'll just deal with these rooms. Pulling the monk, because the monk is blocking that chest directly. Hello, Aramon. I didn't track you earlier. Watching for the thingy. There's another one coming. They're all coming from that other room I didn't look at. So that's something to note. So their time I got caught up by the patrol. Didn't hear it coming. I was focused in. But hey, you know. Alright. Strength and Steel, not overly concerned. And we made our adjustment as needed. Checking to see if there's another one. There is not. That is a steal. Very good, because I think that carries me to the boss, which means I'm actually going to take the effort to see if this chest is worth getting. Because if it's a strength, then that's perfect. It's a double steal. We'll just take the steal and go. So this steal may actually be long enough for me to get into the boss, but now we just did this one. However, this is where it's nice, because I have the Witching, which was in the room previous. And then something respawned on top of that. Brilliant. Amazing. I'm gonna pop a potion here. Now, I do have the option for sleeping, but I did Witching these things, so I'll just try to fight it. If it gets a little close that these things are gonna pop out, which it is in 6 seconds, I might pop the sleep here. I'm not sure how many do sleep. Oh, all of them. That's nice. Okay, cool. We'll just do it one at a time now. See, sleep is very good for casters. Make sure you remember that. That can be your first oh crap button before you consider maybe other things, but since I had the free Witching, I was going to utilize it, you know. Purity in case I get the Mimic. There you go, nice and clean. Let's get that Witching that I used earlier. Strength came in as a drop that I didn't notice, so that's actually really good. There's the Witching. So I'm gonna pick up the other steel that was in the room here. This one. Because I just was here for a couple extra minutes. So let's pick the fresh steel, let's pick the fresh strength, and then now I have enough of buffs to possibly get to the boss with these buffs on, which is very good. Also, partial suggestion here. Especially for the bosses moving forward, typically you're probably going to want a Strength and Steel. You can get through without it, but you're going to want one. So not a bad idea here to actually pop an Affluence going into the 9th floor, because you may actually give yourself a little bit of a higher chance to get a Strength and Steel, so that you can walk into the next set with a full complement of a Strength and Steel. In this case, I already have it on, so it's unnecessary, but if you're walking in without a Strength Steel, consider that as a thought, because maybe you're not really using Affluences a lot, and if you want to at least use it, then that could be a way to get some value out of it. Oh, hi. High-speed eyeballs. I'm gonna try to pull one of them. They don't go away too fast. They went away too fast. Gloom, they have increased movement speed, so they're gonna move a little bit faster. So there's 3 on the map. This is where, again, keeping an eye and a head count of how many patrols there are is so important. So I'm keeping in the back of my head, okay, we've got 2 other ones floating around here. So I want to make sure that they don't become a problem. I want to look at my left side when I come out of this room. Or just stay back here. Actually, because those came back, that is telling me that there is a dead end to the left. And now this is coming up as well. I have 2 coming my way. So this is kind of how we're controlling these patrols, staying back in the spawn room. Another little tactic here is that in the spawn room, when they enter a spawn room, they can go in one of 3 directions, straight, left, or right. Sometimes they go all the way down. So this one is going in the middle. And it doesn't mean that they're going to now circle. They're going to take the same path back. So if you're already established to going down the middle, I can stay over here. It's not going to come at me. Something to watch for. Because it's a little bit trickier with the high speed of the Gloom floor, making them move a little bit quicker, but... Alright, so we basically have not left the spawn room yet. There's still a possibility I'm hitting a trap here, so I'm going to be a little bit careful. Steal again for the boss, which is always nice. This is the dead end that I established earlier because of the time it took for the air mount to come back. I can pop that steal already and not come back here because this is the last floor before the boss, and more than likely that's going to stay on because the boss is going to be very quick. This monk is dead center in where I need to go. It is proximity, so it has to go. There's a Lucian and another monk just spawned right here. Possibility it moves forward, and if it does, I'm just going to fight it. It did not, it turned around. I believe there's one more patrol that's floating around here. These monks are all over the place too, which is not helping my situation. There is that Airmon that I was tracking. I will eliminate it. I could also let it go. Nope. In this case, I'm going to let it go because it's going to come through this area. So I'm going to let it pass by here so it doesn't catch me in the hallway. It'll go through this area here. Should have enough time to run away from Sucker. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to pop a potion here. Okay. Rage would have been nice earlier. It is what it is. But I don't need anything. I'm just going to go to the boss because we just have to go to the boss. So let's go. So the boss, we have a very common strategy which involves resolution. And you can fight this normally. If anything, I'll just, like, you know, maybe insert it somewhere, because we did fight this normally. Here we'll do a little bit more of a, I would say, run-of-the-mill way of doing this, because I have a very super optimized way of doing it, but we always have people who have partial issues. Maybe they have higher ping, maybe they just hit the buttons fast enough. So we'll show you kind of like the middle ground of how to do this fight. I like to say this, the rotation here, it's 3-2-3-2, because you do 3 hits, then 2 hits, then 3 hits, and 2 hits. Then 3 hits. So what we'll do here, we'll do a completely 2-2-2-2-2 hit, so everything will be in 2s. What will happen, though, because we don't get the 3rd hit, we will have to deal with the add. So if you're unable to get that 3rd hit through the rotation, prep to kill the ads because you can one-shot the ads, so that's very important. Here also what you can do is you can do Embolden, because I believe that should actually boost your attack here on the resolution. So we'll do 2 hits every time. Be a little bit more chill here. So you move to 2, then you move. You don't have to move very far as long as you don't go back in that puddle. That puddle hurts. It might actually one-shot you on Red Mage. So there's our 2. We do 2 more. So this is going to be very kind of like chill, casual. The squeeze in 3 is definitely possible. A little bit sly casting required. But again, for some people, that's not the most comfortable. So with this pacing that we're doing, we're going to have to pop and kill the ads because we're not really that close to killing it outright. And I highly recommend killing the ads because the ads could kind of catch up to you. Just play it safe, get rid of these ads, and then continue blowing up the boss here. No big deal. Just get rid of the ads because they're going to die in one shot. Here, more than likely, you're going to have to clean up the fight with your own damage because of the pacing that you were going. And that's perfectly fine. This fight's going to be fine. As long as you dodge these attacks. I'm probably going to have to now because that resolution's dropping. Gonna heal myself here. There we go. That is the 140 boss. And that is 140. And welcome to the 141 set. So how are we describing the first 50, the 50 floors here? 101 was welcome to the hard floors, try not to mess up, especially if you kind of just like got through 1 to 100 again. You had the update in 7.5 where you can die as many times in 1 to 100 and you're not going to worry about it. But once you step into 101 and you die there, you're back to 1 for that title. 101 was a nice kind of ease in. You still have to be careful, some little bit tricky mobs. 111 probably the hardest. It kind of goes up a little bit in the curve and then kind of mellows out a little bit by 120, by 111 and 121. I'm sorry, 121 and 131. Apologies, 111 was the harder one. But now, stepping into 141, I would say it's a little bit more of a steep curve to get through here. You're going to deal with a couple harder enemies. I would say the enemies here are a little bit more front-loaded, where you have the gargoyles and the DPS check demons and the manticores who can kind of sneak up on you. So a lot of the enemies are a little bit harder in the beginning, and then they're a little bit more chill towards the latter bit. What I actually will start to recommend here is if you've been a little bit more chill on your sustaining potion, to be a little bit more aggressive on the sustaining potion, more for the first half when you see the gargoyles kicking in. That's what I highly would recommend. Like here I was kind of like not really using a sustaining until we maybe had a multi-pull or something like that, but here I would start getting used to opening with a sustaining right before the pull and pulling everything, because things can get a little bit difficult here. So let's refruit up, let's step into 141, and then let's see how we do, shall we? Here I actually it would not be a terrible idea to open with a strength and a steal, but we'll just be a little bit more aggressive with our potion usage here in the beginning to hold on to that steal. So we'll pop in with that one. The demons are okay, the gargoyles are not okay, especially when you get multiple of them. So I'm going to pop a potion here to get rid of one gargoyle. And this is going to be a little bit more the deadlier one to deal with. If we have to deal with multiple, it's going to be not a good day in the office. There is one patrol here. Okay, that was our full burst, so we eliminated with a full burst, which is really nice. I'm going to pull the patrol first, and then open this chest next. Manticore is just because he'll do attack bonus. He's going to hit a little bit harder than a lot of the other things here. As again, I'm not using that alteration unless for whatever reason I find a mimic. That is another witching, which is kind of nice. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull both of them, and then I'm going to witching here, and we'll take care of both of them now. As you can see, while fighting 2 of them, I am now taking a double poison, and the double poison is actually enough damage to negate my sustaining potion. So that's one reason why 1 is already tricky, let alone 2. And the chickens are actually kicking my butt here. He's gonna come out and re-poison me, but he's already half dead, so it's alright. There's also a chance that you're gonna get interrupted on your casting. Short cast can become a thing too. So this is the poison, the witching. I get through this room to see what's on the other side of the room first. See if there's any power-ups I can get. So the strength is nice, especially here on the opener, because here... Oh, no, you just moved. Because here, you can kind of get through these harder enemies a little bit quicker, and then you can kind of chill without using the strength if you want to for like the rest of it, unless you get an extra one. But you're kind of eliminating more of the threat earlier than the threat that's later. Now, I did not walk this side, I walked the other side, so I gotta be a little bit careful in case I hit a trap, possibly. Or that demon aggro's, which I did not. Alright, so now we start proceeding to those last 2 floors in the southeast of the map. There's a witching here, which I know of. I'm gonna pull the Ked because he's kind of in the way. Okay, the exit is here. So now we're going to go into this room to see if there's a chest I can acquire. Otherwise, I'm just going back and just going to clear up that exit. And where is the exit visually? In my left side. So I don't really have to kill anything in particular, because currently none of the enemies are going to be in my way towards that exit. And you can see here, like, I'm needing to pop that sustaining potion unless I'm going to toss the deals out. I'm going to open with an affluence here to kind of see if we can maybe get a steal, possibly get some of our other stuff back. I used the lust, by the way, on 130. Haven't gotten it back. So just a little bit of note there. Not really concerned by that at the moment, but ooh, I've gotten a raising every floor. That's very nice. It's very nice if you're trying to progress, and hopefully in your own run, that is what's going to happen. Okay, checking this chest because there is a gold chest here. Gonna skip basically everything else though. Intuition. I don't need to kill anything here. I checked the chest, they're not blocking me, I'm good to go. This was what? Witching, okay. This was what? Raising. Hello, Manticore. Watch out for Ripper Claw. That knight might need to go. Maybe. Fortune, I'll use it. Manticore priority because it is the patrol, and it might come in this direction, so I'll just get rid of it now. Okay, Knight is blocking me from checking that next room, so more than likely I will pull it. And in this case, I might actually face pull it, because I still have my combo to finish. And another Manticore shows up. Okay. I think I could have gotten that cast off, but I failed. Demon is currently in the way for me to check that next room, so I'll go fight it. Staying in this hallway. Alright, let's go. Now we can check, just in case. There's a chest there, but it looks like it's a silver. Got the strength back, very good. Nothing here. So we checked the last room. I don't need to do anything in that room. No necessary kills over there. Again, this knight is questionable, but he seems to be out of the way, so I can probably ignore him and try to work. But if there's nothing in this room that I need and fight for, then I probably wipe out the knights. Actually, so in this case, I think I do the Ked first and then the knight. Resolution. So resolution came back already. That's pretty nice. Got the resolution faster than I get the lust. Okay, the Dyne has to go now. Okay, off we go. Sight, that's good. 3 knights in this room. And that's the exit already. Alright, so this one is priority because it's right at the exit. The next one is over there, which is blocking me from the room. The one by the trap and the chest could be also a pull. And the reason is because it might be blocking me from a chest. We'll do it in that order. And there's only one more gold chest anyway. So once I get to that last gold chest, then I can kind of just get out. Also gotta concern myself with possible patrols because this is a one-way street. So enemies coming in, they only go one way. Don't currently see one in a distance. So I'm looking through that room. That's, again, one huge thing you can do on the run to see if you're gonna encounter something in the near future. Dun, 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 dun. Sight again, don't need it. Alright, so here I don't have strength or steel. Let's see if I can avoid the gargoyle by pulling the Ked first. Because he might move by the time I kill this Ked. Okay, ignoring it. Boot is sound. And does paralyze. Demon is sight. Gonna get to this chest first. See if it's a mimic too. That's also part of the reason I want to get to it first. Serenity. Alright, let's just clean our way out of here then. Okay, that's all I needed. Let's get out of here. Check if there's a chest that dropped. I did not. Okay, I'm gonna run past the... Okay, no, he moved. I was gonna go behind the gargoyle, but he moved, so it's okay. Time check. We are at 44, going into with 10 minutes only into here. 11 minutes in, so we're great on time. Moving pretty swiftly through. Okay. Check chests. Strength. Very good. Extra strength going, using it. That is a patrol coming in, which is the Wraith. Highly recommend not to do what I'm going to do here, which is pull it into this room, right? Pulling here and then fighting here. If you're gonna pull it here for the love of God. You're gonna find out why in a second. Okay? Because of that. And if you pull it on the backside, you're not getting out a scream. So be very careful with this one in this particular kind of floor layout, because you can actually brick yourself by just positioning completely wrong. And that's also if you don't have a strength on, right? So here, definitely don't pull it into the room. Like, if anything, go here. You can probably be safe now from this distance. I can probably get to the backside, so I'm actually just going to demonstrate that. Why not? Here, you might actually kill it in time before it really gets there, but... Okay. I've done that before, especially in Heaven on High. I gave myself a problem there. So here we're cleaning up the patrol because they keep on coming. We'll take care of the boot. It is sound, a little bit on the easier side. I'd have to walk past it to, like, just not fight it, but we'll clear this up so I have the spawn room as a opening to kite into if I need to. Okie dokie. This is a silver chest, don't need to deal with it. Checking to see if there's any more patrol coming. Not. Oh, there is one. Well, hello there, sir. Gonna position myself in a way where I can run away. So here's good. I can jump back, probably not get the knight if needed. I may actually just run, just so I can control my distance here. And I also see what this room is. I don't have to be here, because there's only a silver chest. There is a bronze chest, but I'll pass on the bronze chest for now. So we're going to the next room. Knights. I can get around the knights. Only one single knight. I think it's where all the raids came from, which means there's probably only one more room, which is the one to the east. That is a mimic. I have 3 witchings here, and I'm going to utilize one to avoid the pox as an option here. Witching for avoiding pox is not bad if you're okay with not hitting traps. If you're kind of like someone that commonly hits traps, you may not want to use that witching, so you can have it available for a trap. And that's more of a guideline, I would say, than a rule. You gotta kind of adjust to your own playstyle, right? Affluence. There's a knight here that's a little close. I'm gonna pull it. I'd rather pull it in the safety of the hallway than over there. And I can't get past the boots now, the multiple boots, because of the respawn. And I can get to that chest pretty safely. Okay, walking this whole way around. Amazing. We're gonna have to eat the pox now. It is what it is, it happens. Staying in the walking position because of the boots. You're definitely getting pox here. So to be a little bit more aggressive with my sustains and my healing for about 10 minutes. I actually would rather not really use the purity here. Pox sucks, yes it does suck, but Red Mage is pretty good because even if you have no items, at least I can heal myself. And if anything, I'd rather have the purity like the next set than on this set, so I'll just ride the Pox, it's alright. Maybe I get an extra one, but at least Red Mage is one of those jobs that isn't overly bad, unlike, let's say, a melee. If a melee gets a Pox and then you step into a no item floor, that kind of sucks. You know? You have to kind of use the Serenity because you're not getting HP back. Clearing the 2 knights up because they're blocking the exit. Double checking to see if there's anything floating around with the thing. I'm gonna have to really keep my uptime on my sustaining potions up this time because of the gloom and the lack of the auto healing. If I were to take a lot of damage here, then I have to heal it back up with my own healing, which could extend the fight a lot longer. Here I'm gonna pull the knight here so I can get access to that chest over there. And there's no patrol, seems like, for now, at least in the directions I'm going, so we can kind of drive a little bit. Good thing I actually had that delay a little bit. Ooh, Serenity's very good. Intuition in that chest. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna hold here, kill this, and then walk through RP walk to get the other chest here. Rage! That's very nice, but I have to be careful. I'm gonna pop a fortune here for the extra kills. I have to be a little careful because any damage I take, I do not make it back from the pox. So hitting a landmine here would actually be pretty disgusting because I lose all that HP. Did have the potion rolling still. I popped the fortune to see if we can possibly get some extra chests here. Now, question, or rather thing, is that before I said, hey, you should try to check chests as best you can before you pop the rage. I have a lot of rooms left to go. Not concerned with time. Already have pox. If I didn't have pox, maybe I'll think about it. But it's a good habit to form. But you know, we're kind of okay right now. So not too concerning at the moment. No chest shops, unfortunately. So we'll check the last 3 here. So this one, which is a safety, which I will use. The other one, don't know what that is. Aha! Penalized for that. What did I say? But here it's okay. I already have the pox on, so it's whatever. But there's that actual example of, oh, you should have probably checked the chest before the thing. But that's okay. Just gonna have to have a little bit longer pox on. Time's so great. We just spent 19 minutes, 18 minutes on the first 5 floors, so we're in a very good pacing here. Lusts. Alteration. So here in this case, I am using that alteration because I have the pox on. So that's kind of my flow chart. If I have pox on, then I'll alter, but without it, then I won't. There's a patrol in the future. Steel I can use right now. And another racing. It's been kind of nice on the racings today. Have to watch my feet because the succubuses will shoot at me from afar. As advertised. Hit a silence trap, amazing. Alright. So I'm just gonna run around for a little bit. I don't really need to do much at the moment. These guys are not gonna drop me. Fast enough. Unless I do a third one. Ooh, the resolution. I'm gonna probably take a hit here intentionally. If I remember correctly, I cannot use that resolution if I have this ability down, so I need to be careful a little bit. Yep, I need to wait for the ability to actually go off. Which makes it interesting because it's like, if you have an ability down floor, you can still resolution, but you can't do it if you actually get that debuff on. These are undead, so that works out for me. I can't recall if I had another undead here. Oh, I did, the boot. Might have another undead in the other room, but the undeads take bonus damage from resolutions just like 91 plus or 191 plus, and these are still undead. So you do have a couple that are floating around on these floors too. It's really far, but sure. Okay, I don't remember what this one was. Oh, raising. And then we had a resolution, at least, and then something I don't know what's in that room. So this is utilizing our tools to the maximum value. Got a resolution, got rid of those rates pretty easily. Went from like a little annoying to like less annoying. Did not check this chest yet because I was in resolution. That's an intuition. That's good. Next room is altered with my pox on. So we're kind of justifying that. Because if I get mimics, then I had pox anyway. Affluence, which we'll use. Definitely good to try to stock up on the shanks and seals for the possible boss here. Well, the possible of having a shank and seal for the boss is what I mean. And trying to keep the fights in the hallway so it don't cause too much of a tragedy if I were to step and hit a trap while fighting something. A Gravekeeper has showed up. We're gonna RP walk because it is sound as a patrol. Definitely don't want to fight it in this room in particular. I'm okay with fighting it in general, but just not in the middle of a room, that's all. And not while I'm also fighting something else. Pulling the succubus here. Repositioning myself. Actually, I should position here. Because I don't want to dive into a room, because I think that's how I got in trouble last time. Serenity, don't need it because there's nothing to erase. Gonna just check a couple of these chests first and then make my way back to the exit. See what kind of power-ups we get, if we get any at all. Lust? I got my lust back, that's kind of nice. That's a respawn already, so that's kind of interesting. 2 Korrigans, which is also great. And a refresh on the steel, which is also great. Please use it now. Chest drop over there. Gonna walk the dangerous way to get there. Oh, did I say the dangerous way? I did in fact say the dangerous way. Let's see. One thing slept. So here, I might be able to do sleep tech here. Sleep tech is when, if we go 2 rooms away, I can de-aggro something. And since we thinned out the enemies in the other room, more than likely I will. So take a look at that Hellhound, and it is currently focus target. So if I go in the middle of this room, it will de-aggro and go yellow, which means it is off my list, and I no longer have it. So that's our sleep tech, very useful. In a luring trap situation for sure. Of course, it only worked for 2 enemies, but hey, at least I'm dealing with 2, not 3. And that Hellhound doesn't do telegraphs, which means it only does auto attacks. So that kind of sucks. Man, I swear, like, so many times do I do in this game where, like, I hit a trap and then directly after a sight or a safety comes in. It's pretty incredible how that actually happens a lot. Gonna try to make my... Ooh, the Hellhound gave me a problem. Also can't get this cast off because I'm paralyzed. This is really great. Alright, I was gonna go to the inner here, so I'll go to the outer to get to this room so I can maybe check this gold chest here. RP walk again because of the Gravekeeper, the Palace Keeper. Gotta be careful because she's gonna do a large AoE here. Gonna move. Okay. Got the site back, but I think I already had a site, which I just didn't open. So we're just gonna go after this. No big deal. See if you dropped the chest. You did not. Let's go. Athens on the next floor. Okay, let's go. No debuff. About to lose the pox. It's at 3 minutes. That's the exit. Blocked by a Succubus and a Onyx Dragon, which is Sight here. So I'm actually going to work the other rooms first and then come back later. Sights. Good. Whoa, this room became very big. I actually thought it was going to be a small room, and it's actually really big. Let's get ourselves over there. Now, where was that Hellhound? 2 Gravekeepers! Ha ha ha. They're hugging each other, it's cute. So now I have 3 Gravekeepers to worry about. I'm actually going to pull one of them so I can thin them out. So now I'm keeping that mental node, right? So that those 2 Gravekeepers are going to be walking towards the exit. Or rather, towards the dead end there. I'll actually see if I can utilize the silver chests. Nope, didn't explode. Looks like I have to fight that Onyx Dragon because he's perfectly positioned right now to aggro me no matter what direction I go. Waiting for the Conal. Okay, so again, I still have those 2 patrols that are there. Didn't check this direction to see if there's anything else. There's only those 2 patrols. So if I were to guesstimate, they're probably going to be here in about a minute and a half. Fortune, I gotta pull the Persona here because the Persona might aggro me going to the next room. Strength is great, but I'll use it on my way out because that might actually be used in the boss. This is where all the Gravekeepers came from. Safety, don't need it. So I bet the patrols are gonna probably show up by now. Yep. Perfect timing. I'll take care of one of them. Okay. Gonna put a potion here. And I'm holding on to that shank by the time I leave, not now. So I can probably carry it into the boss. Try to see if I can sneak past these hellhounds to get into that last room to see what might be in there. And there's sight. Need you. I need you. Yeah, baby. Get that displacement to cut through possible aggro there. So I'm gonna move while I have a chance. Oh, that other hellhound might get me. It did, unfortunately, but that's okay. I have the steal on, so it's not half bad. We need the other kill anyway, because the exit is not open. That's a new patrol. That one respawned. Where did you come from? Well, you didn't. You respawned. Okay, now I pop that strength. Walk here because I might aggro if I just do regular movement. I will pop an Affluence, which is something I said in the previous floor. If you're kind of wanting a strength and steel leading to the boss, not a bad idea to Affluence here, because you may get it with the Affluence. And if you're not really using Affluences anywhere else, not a bad way to kind of get the most out of it. Sights. Okay, good. The other way. This way. I'll pull this now, since it's just here. And my steel's about to drop too. So this kind of helps me kind of just get most of it. I might try to pull the other Gravekeeper right away while my steel is still up. Like, literally right now. Might be able to check that chest safely. I actually don't think so. Ooh, I did. Oh, it's a rage. Doing a fortune. Popping a fresh potion. And doing the rage now. Rather convenient, I'll say so myself. And here, again, do I check the chests beforehand? That's okay. If I get the mimic, I'll just deal with it, you know. Otherwise, there's so many chests I'd have to get to. Plus, I had that thing, so. Did it do one? 261 because they only had that much HP left. Actually, I didn't even notice that. That's true. That's true. Counts as current, not the max. That's true. Oh. I actually thought I'd be able to carry that into the other room. Oh, thank you. Well, I counted you. So what we're looking for at best is a strength and a steel. Because that I can carry into the boss. If not, we'll just do it as is, but we'll see what the game gives me here. Other sights. There's the steel, fantastic. So we'll get the rage in this room. Check the other chest over in the east side, and then we have a steel going into the boss. That's very nice. The strength might drop, but that's okay. That's a respawn. Dun, 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 dun. Resolution. Okay, so we'll get the steel at least. Basically, have full uptime in the steel on this fight. We'll save the lust for sure. Oh, a lot of landmines on this floor set, on this floor. Okay, boss time. Succubus. Succubus has a lot of mechanics. If anything, this is just a little bit more trickier if you're going without a steel. That's pretty much what it is. But it's just kind of whittle it down and just do the damage and avoid the mechanics. I definitely would recommend killing the ads, though, when they show up, the crawling zombies. There used to be an old kind of thing with Deep Dungeon where the zombies were actually weak to wind damage, so they take bonus damage from wind, and I believe that's still actually a thing. So you do want to do a Ver Arrow AoE on them when you gather them together. It's nicer on Red Mage simply because it opens the door for you to be able to do your melee combo. Like in a lot of other jobs that are ranged, you don't really have to kill the ads. Like Black Mage, you can kind of ignore it, although I do it. Summoner, you can definitely ignore it because you have full uptime. Pictomancer, you kind of just kill it just because you're AoE, you have so much AoE. Healer, for the most part, you probably would not be, you would kind of be ignoring these guys too, so... But Red Mage is there because you have to go in for melee, you know? Like for hero, I mean, it's going to be a little bit harder for me to get in melee, so I'm going to get rid of them now so I don't have to deal with them. And notice there, I did 1200 damage with my Ver Arrow 2, and I did 700 with Scatters. So they are taking the bonus damage from the arrow attack. It's really interesting that that didn't... Like, it's interesting in two factors. One, they never changed that defense weakness back when there was actually elements in Heavensward. And two, it's interesting that with current content now, that the current content does in fact have elemental alignment for that to even be a thing. Because I believe even the arrow ability of a Pictomancer also will do bonus damage to those zombies, which is a much newer job. But yeah. It's just like an old weakness tag that just still resonates in today's content. So just going through, this fight is not actually complicated. If anything, this is like a DPS check, because if your DPS is pretty low, this fight can take a really long time. Astrologian is one example, where Astrologian, if you come in here without any strength or steel or lust and you do it just raw, you're looking at a 24.5-minute fight, depending on how well you do your damage. That is insane, but that's just kind of what Astro is. So a lot of times it's kind of nice to run in here with a strength and possibly a lust. In the complete opposite direction, both a Pictomancer, a Machinist, and actually maybe a Reaper can kill this in 2 cycles with a lust. So you pop a lust, and then you can kill it before it even actually heals the second time. That's how good it is. You see 1200 there. Actually, I'm going to use the other spell, the Earth Thunder. Look, 600, 1200. Bonus damage from arrow. So my strength is about to drop here, so I'm going to probably look at maybe 2 more cycles here with the Red Mage. Not a bad idea to do that movement with the gap closer and the Gist spell and the displacement to kind of avoid a little bit of damage there. This fight almost cost me a run because of time on Warrior. Yes. Yeah, and for tanks, healers, and everything, it might be a very strong consideration to have a strength and possibly burn the lust. I wouldn't go to 0 lust, because you may want to have it on those future bosses, because in essence, the bosses are not getting easier, and nor are the floors, right? But this is the one boss that can definitely become a very long fight. If your DPS is just a little slow, and also if you're a little bit terrified of like handling the zombies, because like that's one big thing, right? When I do a tank and a healer, if I were to handle the zombies, I get them all in the middle, and then I will AoE them down. And there are people who will look at that and like, I don't want to, that's so dangerous, I don't want to do it. Because you do take intentional damage for that. So you'll have people that will probably try to fight them one at a time. But if you're fighting them one at a time, I mean, let's say you take, I don't know, 3 GCDs to kill all 4. Now you're taking, what, 3 GCDs to kill 1? So you multiply that by 4. That can add up in time over the course of this entire fight. So that's something to, you know, possibly take into consideration. I love this fight in Astro. You can watch an entire 30-minute sitcom before you beat this boss on Astro. Like, it's insane, you know? One anime episode down before you actually beat this boss. That's how long you're fighting it. I think I kill it on the second cycle. Here, I'm just gonna focus damage on the boss now. This fight takes a while on Thaumaturge. But does it take as long as an Astrologian? That's the question. One of Healer Evolved will change that. I'm very interested as well. Very interested as well. You know, depending on when this video gets viewed, maybe we'll have our answer. But yeah, for sure. Alright. 150 in the books. That is Tisiphone down. Let's go. Alright.